Chapter 1530. Just like a 9-star extreme-grade vitality nurturing pill, it could allow a normal person to reach the peak of body refining realm level 9, or even the origin martial realm. However, Tang Ao had used 2 vitality nurturing pills in a row, and Tang Ao's absorption was 10 times better than using the elixir transformation pool. But even in such a situation, after Tang Ao consumed 2 supreme-grade essence nurturing pills, Tang Ao's cultivation only reached the early stages of the body refining realm. Tang Ao calculated in his heart. At this time, even if he used the last extreme-grade vitality nurturing pill, his cultivation would only reach the completion of body refining realm level 8. The original extreme-grade vitality nurturing pill recipe had been improved by Tang Ao, and the effects of the same level of extreme-grade vitality nurturing pills were 3 to 5 times better than before. But even so, after using 3 extreme-grade vitality nurturing pills, Tang Ao's cultivation could only recover to the completion of body refining realm level 8. This made Tang Ao realize even more clearly how much resources the 9 Dragons Emperor Jade body required. Back in the Black-Yellow continent, if it were not for the Underworld Emperor's secret realm left behind by the Underworld Emperor before he fell, and Tang Ao had obtained a huge amount of cultivation resources from the Underworld Emperor's secret realm, who knew when Tang Ao would be able to reach the life and death realm. Although the process of cultivating the 9 Dragons Emperor Jade body required a lot of resources, Tang Ao was still very satisfied with its power. As for the cultivation resources, Tang Ao did not think it was a bad thing. A martial artist's path of cultivation was a process of obtaining and using cultivation resources. The higher the level of a martial artist, the more cultivation resources they would need. In other words, the more cultivation resources a martial artist used, the higher the chance of becoming a top-level martial artist. In his previous life, Tang Ao only had the unawakened 9 Dragons Emperor Jade body, and he had cultivated to the peak of astral reaching realm level 9. In this life, Tang Ao had not only awakened the 9 Dragons Emperor Jade body, but he had also awakened the Sky Extreme Eyes. He even had the inheritances of many top-level chaotic sky realm martial artists. Tang Ao also wanted to know how far he could cultivate in this life. While Tang Ao was pondering, Shuekan's words pulled Tang Ao back to reality. "Let's see if your fist is as tough as your mouth." As soon as Shuekan finished speaking, blood qi surged out of his body. The scarlet blood light looked demonic. Until now, no one knew when the evil blood technique appeared in the Hidden Dragon Crypt. It seemed that ever since the Hidden Dragon Crypts existed, the evil blood technique had been circulating in the Hidden Dragon Crypts. The Hidden Dragon Caves were like a breeding ground for the evil blood technique. No matter how many people resisted, no matter how many times the prison dragon castle interfered, the evil blood technique was still passed down in the Hidden Dragon Caves. Compared to other places on the Faixing continent, the Hidden Dragon Crypt was definitely the most competitive place for warriors. Because of this, everyone was thinking about one thing all the time, and that was to improve their cultivation as soon as possible. The path of cultivation was a step-by-step process. Therefore, it was very difficult to improve one's cultivation as fast as possible. Besides those warriors who were extremely talented in martial arts and had a huge amount of cultivation resources, the rest of the people's cultivation was very difficult. Not to mention the slow cultivation speed, they also had to spend a lot of time to obtain cultivation resources. If it were any other place, it would be fine. But in the Hidden Dragon Crypt, there were countless warriors. How scarce would the cultivation resources be? Even a place as rich as the Evergreen Valley could not provide for so many warriors to cultivate. Chapter 1531. These martial artists who cultivated the evil blood technique did not need to compete with ordinary martial artists for the pitiful cultivation resources. What they needed to do was to find a martial artist that they could defeat. After defeating them, they would drain their opponent's blood essence. Blood essence was the essence of a martial artist. After the blood essence was drained, some martial artists would die from weakness. Some martial artists who were strong enough to survive would become crippled. Continuing to cultivate at this time was an extremely difficult thing to do. Because of this, most of the people in the hidden dragon caves resisted the evil blood technique. Once they found out that someone cultivated the evil blood technique, everyone in the hidden dragon caves would join forces to kill this martial artist. But this was only under ideal circumstances. For example, if the surrounding people's cultivation was much higher than the martial artist who cultivated the evil blood technique, this situation would only occur. Although Yan Shuang and the others knew that Xue Can cultivated the evil blood technique, because Xue Can's cultivation was higher than theirs, Yan Shuang and the others did not have the thought of killing a pest for the people. The reason why they wanted to kill Xue Can was because of Tang Ao. Among the 7 of them, Xue Can had the highest cultivation. If Yan Shuang, Xue Yuehong and the others split up, none of them would be a match for Xue Can. And the 6 of them were fighting on their own, so they had to get rid of Xue Can from the very beginning. Of course, their temporary alliance was not stable, because after they got rid of Xue Can, there would still be a fierce battle between them. When Xue Can's blood-red yuan qi erupted, everyone was secretly on guard. Under the gaze of Yan Shuang and the others, Xue Can roared and turned into a blood shadow that clawed at Tang Ao. Xue Can's hand shone with a scarlet light, and then his hand turned into a pair of ferocious claws. This pair of claws was definitely not something that a human should have. It was even more terrifying than the claws of a demon beast. Although there would always be martial artists who cultivated the evil blood technique in the hidden dragon caves, there would always be martial artists who rejected the evil blood technique. In the process of cultivating the evil blood technique, not only was it cruel to others, it was also cruel to oneself. When a martial artist cultivated the evil blood technique, he would become a bloodthirsty monster. Not only their personalities, but even their appearances would undergo great changes. Tang Ao had seen Tang Ming's mutation process with his own eyes. Back then, Tang Ming had lost control of himself due to extreme rage and repression. He had mutated into a monster with blood and qi lingering around it in front of Tang Ao and the others. That kind of glory was even more terrifying than many demonic beasts. The current crippled blood was in a slightly better state than Tang Ming. Back then, Tang Ming had lost his mind and turned into a monster. However, the current crippled blood was clearly clear-headed. Moreover, it was only his hands that had transformed. The other parts of his body were still that of a normal human. Bang! After a violent collision, Xue Can's hideous bloody hand collided with Tang Ao's golden fist. The violent shockwave sent the nearby skeletons flying. Xue Can, Yan Shuang and the other 5 looked at Tang Ao as if he was a monster. This was because not only did Tang Ao not dodge Xue Can's attack, he even took the initiative to clash head-on with Xue Can. Chapter 1532. Xue Can looked at Tang Ao's life soul in disbelief. A greedy look flashed in his eyes. Normally, a martial artist's life spirit was connected to the martial artist's body. After a martial artist communicated with a life spirit, it would be nurtured in the martial artist's sea of consciousness. When the martial artist died, the life spirit would return to the kingdom of the life spirit, the boundless world. Although the evil blood technique had always been criticized, the evil blood technique had a very unique feature. If a martial artist who cultivated the evil blood technique swallowed the blood essence of another martial artist, after the martial artist died, the martial artist who cultivated the evil blood technique would be able to easily communicate with the martial artist's fate spirit that he had awakened when he was alive. Xue Can did not believe that Tang Ao, who was only at the 8th stage of the body refining realm, could take his punch head-on. Even if it was just a probing attack, a martial artist at the 8th stage of the body refining realm would not be able to take it so easily. The reason why Tang Ao could take his punch was not because Tang Ao was strong, but because Tang Ao's life spirit was too strong. Ever since Shui Ken started cultivating, he had never seen a life soul that protected a martial artist like an armor. After realizing how strong the battle sage bone life spirit was, Shui Ken already had the idea of taking it for himself. On the Flying Star continent, it was a rule that a martial artist could only cultivate to the peak of the first stage of the origin martial realm. Even the strongest person in the Flying Star continent, Lu Chuanjia, was only at the peak of the first stage of the origin martial realm. Therefore, to a certain extent, Shui Ken, who was at the early stage of the first stage of the origin martial realm, did not need elixirs. On the contrary, Shui Ken was very interested in Tang Ao's life spirit. The life spirit allowed Tang Ao, who was only at the 8th stage of the body refining realm, to take a blow from him. If Shui Ken had this life spirit, he would probably be able to challenge Lu Chuanjia. Shui Ken was not the only one who had such thoughts. Among the 6 people from Blood Moon Red, there were also people who were looking at Tang Ao's life spirit greedily. Although his eyes were filled with greed, this person had no way of obtaining Tang Ao's Battle Saint Bone life soul. Therefore, his eyes were filled with deep regret. Others might not be able to obtain Tang Ao's life soul, but Shui Ken could. Now, Shui Ken had awakened a total of 16 life spirit. However, 11 of these 16 life spirits were awakened by Shui Ken through killing other warriors and devouring their essence blood. The strongest life spirits of these warriors were awakened. After killing Tang Ao, Shui Ken also had the confidence to awaken Tang Ao's life soul. However, Shui Ken was still weighing whether killing Tang Ao was more beneficial for him or capturing Tang Ao alive. After capturing Tang Ao, he would no longer lack high-grade pills. Because of his evil blood technique, Shui Ken did not dare to show his face in front of other high-grade alchemists. This was because an alchemist's remembrance was too strong. The remembrance of a high-grade alchemist was even more terrifying. If Shui Ken stood in front of a high-grade alchemist, that alchemist would definitely be able to recognize him. Chapter 1533. Therefore, if Shui Ken wanted to get high-level elixirs, he would have to go to other alchemists to ask for elixirs. However, as long as he could capture Tang Ao this time, the Evil Blood Association would not lack elixirs in the future. In this alchemy conference, Shui Ken had witnessed Tang Ao refining the Chongyang elixir and the 9-star Supreme Spirit Enhancing elixir. In Shui Ken's opinion, Tang Ao's alchemy skills were probably the best in the entire Flying Star continent. Although Lin Ruchang, the leader of the Alchemy Guild, was also very good at alchemy, Lin Ruchang was an old monster who had lived for thousands of years, while Tang Ao seemed to have cultivated for less than 300 years. Moreover, Tang Ao's current alchemy skills were even better than Lin Ruchang's. The scene of Tang Ao forcing Shui Ken to retreat with a single punch also made Shui Ken and the others' minds go blank. Just now, they had thought about it carefully. The moment Tang Ao was in danger, they would attack together and kill Shui Ken as fast as lightning. However, to their surprise, Tang Ao actually forced Shui Ken to retreat with a single punch. Moreover, Tang Ao did not give Shui Ken any time to breathe. Before Shui Ken could completely stabilize his body, a silver light flashed in Tang Ao's hand, and the 100 Battles Spear Soul had already pierced towards Shui Ken's throat. The sharp aura of the 100 Battles Spear Soul made Shui Ken understand that if Tang Ao's attack hit him, there would be a hole in his throat. There would be no room for negotiation. Roar! A strange roar came from Shui Ken's throat. Immediately after, Shui Ken's body suddenly changed. Blood-colored scales instantly covered his entire body. Shui Ken didn't dodge Tang Ao's spear attack. Ding! Tang Ao's 100 Battles Spear Soul violently pierced out, and a string of sparks appeared on Shui Ken's throat. However, Tang Ao's 100 Battles Spear Soul was still unable to pierce through the scales on Shui Ken's throat. Tang Ao had seen these scales on Tang Ming's body before. When Tang Ming had lost control and mutated, these scales had also appeared on his body. It seemed like warriors who cultivated the evil blood technique all had the ability to mutate scales on their bodies. Tang Ao's fierce spear attack did not cause any damage to Xuezong, but Xuezong was also enraged by Tang Ao. Therefore, before Tang Ao could retract his 100-battle spear soul, Xuezong suddenly punched Tang Ao. After being punched by Xuecan, Tang Ao felt as though he had been hit by a charging bull. Although he had the protection of the Battle Sage Bone Life Soul, the intense tremors still made Tang Ao feel a little dizzy. However, Tang Ao was also an expert who had experienced hundreds of battles. Although his cultivation was limited, Tang Ao's battle experience did not weaken at all. After the 100 battles Spear Soul was unable to cause any damage to Xuecan, the 100 battles Spear Soul in Tang Ao's hand flashed silver and turned into countless stars, returning to Tang Ao's body. Then, a green lotus slowly appeared behind Tang Ao. Be it Xuecan or Xueyuehong, they were definitely people who had seen a lot. However, among the 3 life souls that Tang Ao had summoned, apart from the 100 battles Spear Soul, they had never seen the Green Lotus Sword Soul and the Battle Sage Bone Life Soul. Although they had never seen them before, Xuecan did not doubt the power of the Green Lotus Sword Soul and the Battle Sage Bone Life Soul. Chapter 1534. It was also because of this that Xuecan yearned for Tang Ao's Battle Sage Bone Life Soul. Now that Xuecan had seen Tang Ao's Green Lotus Sword Soul, even though Tang Ao hadn't attacked yet, Xuecan could feel the power of the Green Lotus Sword Soul. Xuecan had seen many life spirits since he started cultivating, but Tang Ao's Green Lotus Sword Soul was the first life spirit that Xuecan was afraid of with just its aura. Xuecan couldn't understand. Because Tang Ao's cultivation was at the 5th stage of the body refining realm, Tang Ao's life spirits were definitely awakened before the 5th stage of the body refining realm. But what Xuecan didn't understand was how Tang Ao could awaken so many powerful life spirits before the 5th stage of the body refining realm. The more it was like this, the more Xuecan felt that Tang Ao had a great secret. In the hidden dragon cave, due to the special existence of the Evergreen Valley, many warriors would find their own opportunities in the Evergreen Valley. Xuecan suspected that Tang Ao must have obtained some kind of heaven-defying treasure in the Evergreen Valley. But this time, Xuecan was wrong. This was because it was Tang Ao's first time in the Evergreen Valley. Although Tang Ao wanted to find some treasure in the Evergreen Valley, what made Tang Ao speechless was that not only did Tang Ao not find any treasure, he was even trapped in this special spirit formation space. If it wasn't for the 3 9-star top-grade essence cultivating pills that Tang Ao had made during the alchemy conference, Tang Ao would definitely be in trouble if he encountered Xuecan and his group again. Luckily, Tang Ao was at the 8th stage of the body refining realm. Although it wasn't enough to kill Xuecan and his group, Tang Ao wouldn't be afraid even if he faced an origin martial realm warrior like Xuecan. While Tang Ao and Xuecan were facing each other, Xueyuehong and the others were dumbfounded. If they didn't personally see it, it would be very hard for them to believe that a martial artist at the 8th level of the body refining realm could take one strike from an origin realm expert. But now, not only did Tang Ao survive 3 moves from Xuecan, but he was also evenly matched with Xuecan. Tang Ao did not seem to be at a disadvantage. If they didn't feel that the origin energy flowing around Tang Ao's body was truly at the 8th level of the body refining realm, they would have suspected that Tang Ao was originally an origin realm expert and purposely disguised himself as a martial artist at the 8th level of the body refining realm to trick Xuecan. At this moment, Tang Ao and Xuecan were fighting again. Tang Ao was floating in the air with his long hair fluttering behind him. He looked peerless. Behind Tang Ao, the Azure Lotus Sword souls that Tang Ao summoned spun and turned into 7 incomparably sharp Azure Lotus swords. Tang Ao formed a sword technique with his hand and the 7 Azure Lotus swords slowly revolved around Tang Ao. A terrifying aura was also slowly brewing on the Azure Lotus swords. A wave of killing intent instantly engulfed the entire space. Shui Yuehong and the others felt that their brains weren't enough to process this. Was this really something a martial artist at the 8th level of the body refining realm could do? Even an Origin Realm expert wouldn't be able to do this. Even some weaker Origin Realm experts, like Shui Can in front of Tang Ao, didn't have as shocking an aura as Tang Ao's. Chapter 1535. The bloody mist on Shui Can's body sprayed out again. The bloody mist lingered around Shui Can's body. After the bloody mist appeared, Yan Shuang and the others could even smell the pungent smell of blood. The smell was very uncomfortable. The primordial qi in their bodies seemed to be disturbed, and there were faint signs of rebellion. Originally, they planned to kill Shui Can while he was dealing with Tang Ao. Then, they would fight over Tang Ao. But now, they didn't dare to think like that because they weren't sure if they could kill Shui Can in one strike. However, if they were sure that Shui Can would die, they wouldn't have the right to fight over Tang Ao. Looking at it now, Tang Ao's strength was not weaker than Shui Can's. And Tang Ao was only at the 8th level of the body refinement realm? Even an idiot knew what that meant. Tang Ao must have gotten some sort of heaven-defying opportunity that allowed Tang Ao to fight against an Origin Realm cultivator at the 8th level of the body refinement realm. So, Shui Yuehong and the others were looking forward to Tang Ao and Shui Can fighting to the point where both of them were heavily injured or even killed each other. Then, the 6 of them could split the treasures on the 2 Origin Realm cultivators. Tang Ao and Shui Can didn't disappoint them at all. Just at that moment, Tang Ao and Shui Can were fighting again. This time, it was clear that Shui Can was using his true strength. There were 2 bloody spears in Shui Can's hands. The 2 bloody spears were not a spirit weapon. They were the Bloodfang Spear Life Spirit that Shui Can awakened from the 12th level of the Celestial Realm. Ever since Shui Can started cultivating, he would only use the Life Spirit in battles of the same level. That was because the Life Spirit was too special. Using it required Shui Can's blood essence. In other words, after using the Life Spirit, Shui Can would enter a very long period of weakness. So, unless he had no other choice, Shui Can didn't want to use the Life Spirit. Especially when he was in an unknown, strange space, he didn't want to use the Life Spirit and enter a weak state. Although he didn't want to use the Bloodfang Spear, he had to. This was because Shui Can felt the threat of death from Tang Ao's Green Lotus Sword Soul. This was another benefit of cultivating the evil blood art. When facing an existence that could threaten one's life, the warrior who cultivated the evil blood art would have a very keen perception. They could clearly sense the threat they were facing. Just like earlier, Shui Can had also clearly sensed the hostility and killing intent from Shui Yuehong and the others towards him. However, Shui Can wasn't too nervous. If Shui Yuehong and the others joined forces, they could indeed cause him some trouble. However, if he was prepared, it was absolutely impossible for them to kill him. Moreover, Shui Can knew that Shui Yuehong and the others didn't know each other. Even though they had formed an alliance for a short time, they were still suspicious of each other and their strength was weaker. So, Shui Can didn't think of using the Bloodfang Spear when facing Shui Yuehong and the others. However, when facing Tang Ao, Shui Can didn't have it so easy. The toughness of Tang Ao's Battle Sage Bone Life Spirit was far beyond his imagination. If he used ordinary methods, Shui Can suspected that he wouldn't even be able to break through Tang Ao's defense. Because of that, Shui Can decisively used his strongest attack, the Bloodfang Spear. Chapter 1536. Therefore, Shui Can was very sure that Tang Ao was only at the 5th level of the body refining realm before. After taking the supreme rank vitality raising pellet, Tang Ao's cultivation had shot up to the 8th level of the body refining realm. Moreover, after Tang Ao's cultivation had shot up to the 8th level of the body refining realm, Tang Ao actually had the power to fight against him. Therefore, as long as he obtained Tang Ao's secret, he would be invincible in the whole Flying Star continent. Just like the current leader of the Flying Star Alliance, Lu Chuanjia, although he was only an Origin Martial Realm expert, he was above all other Origin Martial Realm experts. As long as he obtained Tang Ao's secret, Lu Chuanjia might not be his opponent. Tang Ao had no idea what Xue Can was thinking. If Tang Ao knew, Tang Ao could only say that Xue Can was too short-sighted. Even if Xue Can had the 9 Dragon Emperor's jade body, the ancient god-moving sky art, and even all of his life spirits, he still could not dominate the Flying Star continent. However, Xue Can was still unable to move unhindered across the Flying Star continent. Regardless of whether it was the monstrous beasts in Evergreen Valley or the old monsters hiding in the dark like Shi Lianyun, Xue Can couldn't deal with them. Not to mention Xue Can, even when Tang Ao was at his peak, facing an old monster like Shi Lianyun, Tang Ao would still be a bit afraid. As for how frightening a chaotic sky realm expert was, Tang Ao could not imagine. In his previous life, when Tang Ao had reached the peak of the 9th level of the astral reaching realm, Tang Ao had already thought that the peak of the 9th level of the astral reaching realm was already the limit of the martial path. However, the experience of this life made Tang Ao understand that the so-called peak of the 9th level of the astral reaching realm was just like Tang Ao's current body refining realm. It was only a stage in the process of cultivation, and not the end of the martial path. Above the astral reaching realm, there was the even more powerful Yin-Yang realm. However, in his previous life, Tang Ao had not even touched the edge of the Yin-Yang realm. After the Yin-Yang realm was the so-called chaotic heaven realm. Ming Di, who had given Tang Ao the underworld life spirit, the Shenong Emperor, who had taught Tang Ao alchemy, and Yun Xiaoyao, who had taught Tang Ao artificing and formations, were all experts of this realm. When Tang Ao first met these people, they had already fallen countless years ago. However, when Ming Di had given Tang Ao the underworld life soul, Tang Ao had clearly sensed that a single thought from Ming Di could turn him into dust. Although he had been in Emperor Hades' domain at that time, it was still enough to prove how terrifying a Hun Tian stage powerhouse was. Moreover, compared to Ming Di in the past, Shi Lianyun's body didn't have any spiritual qi fluctuations, but Shi Lianyun hadn't perished. Who dared to say that Shi Tingyun couldn't use the domain of a Muddy Heaven stage powerhouse here? Therefore, the waters of the Flying Star continent were very deep. Once Tang Ao had rescued Chu Shuahan and helped Murong Xian resolve the crisis of the Murong family, Tang Ao wouldn't stay on the Flying Star continent any longer. This was because the Flying Star continent wasn't suitable for Tang Ao's cultivation. Moreover, Tang Ao's injuries wouldn't be able to recover here. If his spiritual C and soul C couldn't be completely repaired, it would be nonsense for Tang Ao to recover his cultivation base. Currently, Tang Ao had many things on his mind. 7 Kills sect and the Tang family of Bluestone City. He also wondered if everything was going smoothly. One had to know that when Tang Ao had fled to the ice and snow plains, Tang Ao had been targeted by many forces. Therefore, after Tang Ao disappeared, would the 7 Kills sect and the Tang family of Bluestone City be suppressed by other forces? Chapter 1537. Seeing that Tang Ao's eyes were a little unfocused, clearly thinking about something else, Xue Can immediately realized an opportunity. Immediately, he transformed into a blood shadow and charged at Tang Ao. It wasn't a lie to say that it was a blood shadow. After Xue Can activated the evil blood technique with all his might, his body seemed to turn into a mist of blood. At this time, what everyone saw was a cloud of blood mist carrying an incomparably sharp aura rushing towards Tang Ao. After approaching Tang Ao, a blood palm with a terrifying aura slammed towards Tang Ao's head. This move contained an extremely terrifying aura, as though it wanted to smash Tang Ao into pieces. Although Tang Ao's Battle Sage Bone Life Soul was extremely tough, Tang Ao had no intention of taking Shui Can's attack head-on. This was because Shui Can's Blood Palm was clearly a probing attack. Therefore, Tang Ao suddenly retreated and dodged Shui Can's attack. Then, Tang Ao's gaze turned sharp. After Tang Ao's cultivation level plummeted, Tang Ao needed more time to prepare if he wanted to use the 7 Kills Divine Way. But now, Tang Ao's 7 Kills Divine Way had reached a peak state. Therefore, Tang Ao's body suddenly floated into the air. Immediately, the 7 green lotus swords lined up on Tang Ao's left and right. Then, Tang Ao pointed his sword finger out and shouted, "7 Kills Divine Way, go!" As Tang Ao's voice fell, the 7 azure lotus swords suddenly trembled, and then a destructive aura was instantly released. When Shui Yuehong and the others looked at the green lotus sword, they even had an illusion that their eyes would be cut by the sharp green lotus sword when they looked at it. Shui Yuehong and company, who were watching from the side, could already sense the terror of the green lotus sword soul. Shui Can, who was facing the green lotus sword soul, actually felt a little afraid. Despite the fear in his heart, Shui Can did not flee immediately. This was because Shui Can could clearly feel that his chi had been completely locked by the green lotus sword soul. If he turned around and ran, he would only be left with a dead end. Therefore, Shui Can gritted his teeth and injected his surging blood chi into the Blood Fang spear. After Shui Can tried his best to inject the essence of blood and chi into the Blood Fang battle spear, the spear also flashed a strange scarlet color. The color was like the scarlet eyes of a demon beast in the night, which looked very scary. At that moment, everyone was surprised to see Xuezong's 2 Blood Fang spears slowly melting, turning into droplets of blood that fell to the ground and gathered in one spot. Then, a faint heartbeat could be heard from the pool of blood. Shui Can's expression changed abruptly when he heard the heartbeat. Because at this moment, Shui Can was horrified to discover that his essence blood was uncontrollably being devoured by this ball of blood. Shui Can had previously used the Blood Fang spear life soul, but he had never encountered such a situation. But now, the Blood Fang spear life soul seemed to have lost control and turned into this. Feeling the essence of blood and chi in his body constantly flowing away, Shui Can immediately wanted to cut off his connection with the Blood Fang spear. However, at that moment, he could not do it at all. Under Shui Can's shocked gaze, a hand stretched out from the pool of blood on the ground. Then, an abnormally pale man crawled out of the pool of blood. The man had an abnormally ancient aura, just like the treasures found in some ruins. There was a feeling of age. There was actually a person in his Blood Fang spear. Shui Can felt that his brain could not process the situation. However, Shui Can was decisive. At that moment, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of essence blood. Then, a blood-colored rune appeared in front of Shui Can. Chapter 1538. On the crimson ground there were some cracks on the ground. Not far away there were scattered white bones. At this moment, there was a pool of blood beside these white bones. The blood was scarlet and demonic. At this moment, above the blood sat a demonic youth wearing a blood-colored robe. This demonic youth had pale skin and slender eyes. His aura was extremely weak, and he was sitting on the blood, gasping for breath. The person in front of him was too familiar to Tang Ao. This person was his archenemy in his previous life, Blood Knight Monarch Blood Scar. In his previous life, Tang Ao had personally seen Blood Scar killed by a divine light from outer space. He didn't expect to encounter Blood Scar here in this life. Blood Scar was Tang Ao's archenemy. Tang Ao naturally knew that Blood Scar had a life soul. Therefore, Tang Ao also knew that Blood Scar had the Blood Fang spear life soul. However, Tang Ao never expected that Blood Scar would really run out of the Blood Fang spear life soul. Furthermore, he had nearly sucked Blood Remnant's lifeblood essence dry. If Blood Scar hadn't decisively severed his life-soul connection with the Blood Fong battle spear at the last moment, then Blood Scar really might have been sucked dry by Blood Scar. Compared to the martial artists in the Hidden Dragon Cave, who cultivated the evil blood technique, Blood Scar could be considered their ancestor. When Tang Ao looked at Tang Ao, Blood Scar also raised his head and looked in Tang Ao's direction. After seeing Tang Ao, Blood Scar was shocked and was about to use spatial blood escape to escape. However, Blood Scar suddenly realized that he was only at the second stage of the body refining realm. How could he use spatial blood escape? However, at this moment, Tang Ao also came back to his senses. He saw Tang Ao take a step forward, and his figure came to Blood Scar's side like a ghost. Then, without waiting for Blood Scar to react, Tang Ao's hand slapped a strange and mysterious talisman into the center of Blood Scar's eyebrows. Subsequently, Tang Ao's boundless soul remembrance instantly poured into the mark between Xue Hen's eyebrows. Xue Hen let out a miserable cry from Tang Ao's action. Blood Moon and company were dumbfounded by what was happening in front of them. First, Tang Ao and Xue Ken were fighting, but before Tang Ao and Xue Ken could exchange a few blows, Xue Ken had summoned such a strange life soul. Right on the heels of that, the blood essence was devoured by the life soul. After devouring nearly 90% of the blood essence, the Blood Fong spear life soul turned into a pool of blood. Following that, the demonic man crawled out of the pool of blood. And now, Tang Ao seemed to have used some sort of method on this demonic young man, causing him to scream out in pain again and again. Although Xue Hen's screams were mournful, Tang Ao had no intention of stopping. This was because Xue Hen's cruel and merciless methods were well known to Tang Ao. In his previous life, Xue Hen had massacred an entire city in order to cultivate. In his previous life in the Black-Yellow Continent, if one were to summon an expert who had killed the most people, it would definitely be Xue Hen. Moreover, Xue Hen was extremely unruly and temperamental. In this place, if Tang Ao did not take advantage of this opportunity to control Xue Hen, he would become a disaster for the entire Flying Star Continent once Xue Hen regained his breath. In the Flying Star Continent, even a chaotic heaven realm expert like Shi Yunyun had no place to use his skills. He could only live in seclusion in Qing Yun village and plot in secret. However, this place was very suitable for Xue Hen. Just like the martial artists who cultivated the evil blood technique, Xue Gu also extracted the blood of other living beings to cultivate. However, compared to Xue Gu, the difference between the martial artists who cultivated the evil blood technique and Xue Gu was too great. Xue Gu was on the same level as their ancestors. Chapter 1539. Right then, there was almost no Yuan Qi left in Blood Scar's body. However, because he had just swallowed Blood Scar's blood, he had already reached the body refining realm level 3. Tang Ao guessed that it was because most of Blood Scar's blood qi essence had been used to build his body, which was why he was only at the body refining realm level 3. Right now, it could be said that Blood Scar was at his weakest. If Tang Ao could not stop it now, then when Blood Scar recovered, it would be Tang Ao who would be in trouble. However, right now, after Tang Ao had left his soul mark on Blood Scar's soul, he would not have a chance anymore. Blood Scar's screams lasted for half a minute. Blood Moon and the rest of the group looked at Tang Ao with flickering eyes, but still did not do anything. After half a minute, Tang Ao looked at Blood Scar with satisfaction, feeling extremely happy. Right now, this guy had been completely stopped by him. With only a thought from Tang Ao, Blood Scar would be turned into ashes immediately. After restraining Blood Scar, Tang Ao heaved a sigh of relief in his heart because this guy was simply an invincible existence here. Blood Scar was Tang Ao's nemesis in his previous life, so Tang Ao knew him too well. If it were not for him stopping Blood Scar here, the Flying Star Continent would have been doomed. According to Tang Ao's understanding from his previous life, Blood Scar's cultivation method was an incomplete divine scripture. Therefore, Blood Scar would not be restricted by the Yuan Qi in this place either. In other words, it would be the limit for normal people to train to the Origin Martial Realm Level 1. But this guy, as long as he had enough blood, he would be able to reach the peak of the Astral Reaching Realm Level 9. Tang Ao did not know why, but in his previous life, Blood Scar was only able to reach the peak of the Astral Reaching Realm Level 9 without the restriction of the Spirit Qi. However, in Tang Ao's opinion, Blood Scar should be able to reach the Astral Reaching Realm Level 9 here as well. Not to mention reaching the Astral Reaching Realm Level 9, as long as Blood Scar could reach the Origin Martial Realm Level 2, he would be able to do whatever he wanted. One had to know that there was no spiritual energy in the Flying Star continent. The limit of cultivating with primordial qi was only the first level of the Origin realm. In his previous life, Blood Scar and Tang Ao were sworn enemies. Therefore, if Tang Ao didn't take this opportunity to kill him while he was down, it would be Tang Ao who would suffer when Blood Scar recovered. Puqi. As soon as his body was reconstructed, Xue Hen was branded with a soul brand by Tang Ao. He spat out a mouthful of blood, then clenched his teeth and said, "Tang Ao, you didn't die? I can't accept this." In his previous life, before Xue Hen had fallen, he had personally witnessed the divine light of outer heaven turn Tang Ao into ashes. However, he was reborn because he had melted a drop of soul blood into his life soul and had been nourished in Xuezong's blood for many years. Xuezong really couldn't understand why Tang Ao was reborn. As for the fact that Tang Ao had survived the divine light of outer heaven, Blood Scar would never believe it. "Ha ha ha, brother Blood Scar, it is indeed a small world." Seeing Blood Scar look like he had just swallowed a fly, Tang Ao couldn't help but feel extremely happy. In his previous life, although Tang Ao and Blood Scar were both called evil demons, they did not appreciate each other at all. Instead, they were sworn enemies. In the past battles between Tang Ao and Xue Hen, the two of them were evenly matched. However, no matter who was more powerful, they would not be able to kill each other in the end. Chapter 1540. Blood Scar's memory was beyond Tang Ao's imagination, but Tang Ao still found what he wanted to know very quickly. After Tang Ao had planted the soul mark on Blood Scar, he was completely under Tang Ao's control. As long as Tang Ao wanted to, he could even know what he was thinking. Moreover, Tang Ao could end Blood Scar's life with a single thought. Tang Ao found the last scene Blood Scar had seen in his previous life. In that special space, a few people had joined hands to blast open a space tunnel. However, Tang Ao was also there, and Tang Ao had also participated in this matter. Back then, Tang Ao had been stuck at the peak of Astral Reaching Realm Level 9 for thousands of years. Later on, someone discovered that peak Level 9 Astral Reaching Realm warriors could reach a higher level of comprehension there, so Tang Ao had immediately gone there. After arriving there, Tang Ao ran into Blood Scar and the others. After observing for a while, they discovered that there was a special enchantment sealing something. Therefore, after some discussion, they decided to join hands to break open this space tunnel. Under the cooperation of 9 peak Level 9 Astral Reaching Realm warriors, that space was shattered instantly, and a space tunnel filled with a boundless aura appeared in front of everyone's eyes. However, before Tang Ao and the others could go in and see what was going on, several beams of outer sky god light descended from the sky, instantly killing the 9 Astral Reaching Realm warriors. Then, that space disappeared as well. This was the last scene Tang Ao saw. Tang Ao continued to search through Blood Scar's memory. After seeing how Blood Scar had survived, Tang Ao sighed inwardly. This kid was indeed a genius. When the divine light from beyond the heavens descended, Xue Scar was instantly blasted to pieces. However, his shattered body actually condensed into a drop of soul blood. Then, this drop of soul blood merged with one of Shweskar's life spirits, and was directly drawn into the great thousand world. The outer sky god light had also sensed Bloodscar's escape, and an extremely overbearing beam of outer sky god light had shot towards Bloodscar. But at that moment the door to the Kiliacosm slowly opened. Bloodstain was swept in along with his shattered life soul. After the divine light from outer space bombarded the door of the boundless world, there was no reaction. Tang Ao was secretly shocked. Tang Ao had personally experienced how powerful the extraterrestrial divine light was. 9 peak-level astral-reaching realm warriors were blown into pieces by that beam of outer sky god light without being able to defend at all. However, when this incomparably domineering divine light from outer space bombarded the void door of the boundless world, it did not even cause the slightest ripple. At this moment, Tang Ao's soul remembrance was about to exit the bloody scar's memories. However, Tang Ao saw a figure slowly appear where they had been killed. Seeing this figure, Tang Ao immediately cried out, "Master Magnetism!" At the place where Tang Ao and the others had been killed in his previous life, the last figure to appear was precisely the archenemy of Hell Emperor, Magnetism. Magnetism waved his sleeve, and the outer sky god light that had killed Tang Ao and the others transformed into 9 golden whips and flew back into his sleeve. At this moment, Tang Ao understood that he had actually been killed by this grandson of Magnetism in his previous life. At the same time, Tang Ao also had a clearer understanding of how frightening Tao sovereigns were. Magnetism had only projected a divine sense clone, and back then, the 9 peak-level astral-reaching realm warriors had all died. Thinking of how he would have to contend against Magnetism in the future, Tang Ao felt a bit of a headache. However, even so, Tang Ao was still very confident in himself. Chapter 1541. However, knowing was one thing. Now that he was in Tang Ao's hands, he didn't have the slightest bit of temper. But towards the origin magnetic Tao Lord that Tang Ao mentioned, Bloodscar was very confused. The last person who appeared was the origin magnetic Tao Lord? Bloodscar asked with uncertainty. That's right, the one who killed you was the origin magnetic Tao Lord. But don't worry, in this life, you follow me. The one who will be killed will be him. After restraining Bloodscar, Tang Ao's mood wasn't too good. In his previous life, the two of them fought a total of 101 battles. Tang Ao's battle record was 50 wins out of 100 battles. Originally, in the last battle, Tang Ao and Bloodscar wanted to decide who was stronger. In the end, before the two of them could even fight, they were inexplicably killed by the origin magnetic Tao Lord. Hearing Tang Ao's words, Bloodscar rolled his eyes speechlessly. Although Bloodscar was extremely weak, he could still feel that Tang Ao was only at the 8th level of the body refining realm. If it wasn't for Tang Ao taking the initiative to restrain him, today would be the day of Tang Ao's death. Tang Ao's aura had changed too much, so when he was in the Bloodfang Spear life spirit, Bloodscar didn't recognize that the person fighting with Bloodscar was actually Tang Ao. According to Bloodscar's original plan, after he absorbed 90% of Bloodscar's blood essence, he would control Bloodscar to use the blood explosion secret technique to take down Yen Shuang and the other martial artists at the 9th level of the body refining realm as well as Tang Ao. After absorbing all of their blood essence, Bloodscar estimated that his cultivation would be above the 6th level of the origin martial realm. After being in the Bloodfang Spear life spirit for so long, Bloodscar also understood that this place seemed to be a very special low-level plane. In this place, martial artists could only cultivate to the 1st level of the origin martial realm and could not continue to cultivate. So in the beginning, Bloodscar felt that it was the heaven's blessing for him to be reborn here. However, what Bloodscar never expected was that he had been reborn, but the person he hated the most, Tang Ao, had also been reborn. And now, it seemed that Tang Ao had been reborn before him. Otherwise, Tang Ao wouldn't have the ability to restrain him. Feeling Blood Scar's helplessness, Tang Ao chuckled. You have to be happy now. It's not embarrassing. Hearing Tang Ao's words, Xue Hen wanted to vomit blood, but he was helpless. Since he was being restrained by Tang Ao, he could only accept his fate. Without Tang Ao's permission, he couldn't die even if he wanted to. Tang Ao, either you kill me now, or I'll destroy your divine soul when I regain my senses. Ao you Tang of Tang Ao. I have to say you. I you. Tang, Ao, Ao, I Tang don't Ao. Demon. How could Tang Ao be willing to kill Blood Scar? Now that Blood Scar was restrained, he immediately became Tang Ao's free fighter. In this place, Blood Scar was like a fish in water. As long as he didn't go to the depths of the Evergreen Valley or Shiyun, he was invincible. However, Blood Scar was too weak. He only had the cultivation of the first level of the body refining realm. So, Tang Ao had to be careful and not let Blood Scar be killed by others. Tang Ao's worries were not unnecessary. Blood Scar's strange appearance stunned Blood Moon and the others for a while. However, when they realized that Blood Scar's aura was only at the third level of the body refining realm, they surrounded Tang Ao. Chapter 1542. Hee. Blockhead, what use do you have for a supreme-grade essence cultivating pill? Alchemist Tang Ao, I don't need much. Today, Alchemist Tang Ao only needs to exchange one supreme-grade essence cultivating pill for me, and I will not participate in this matter. In contrast to the hairy, burly man, the one who had spoken was a short man with a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks. Although this person was strangely short, his energy was very thick. One could see that this person's foundation was very solid. Although the 6 people present were all at the 9th stage of the body refining realm, Tang Ao felt that this fellow could at least be ranked in the top 3. As for the strongest, it was Shui Yuehong. After Shui Yuehong was the female martial artist called Yen Shuang. The remaining 3 fellows were about the same. However, now that they had surrounded Tang Ao felt a little helpless. He had already used the 7 kills divine path to deal with Xue Ken originally. Tang Ao had thought that he would be able to suppress everyone. However, the intelligence of these guys was obviously higher than what Tang Ao had imagined. After Tang Ao displayed the 7 killing sage path, although it had a certain degree of deterrence to them, they could also see that Tang Ao had consumed a lot of energy after using the 7 killing sage path. At this moment, he should not have any spare energy to display such an attack. Ha. Tang Ao, you are making me laugh to death. A dignified demon lord is actually being threatened by a few small fries. When Xue Ken saw Tang Ao's situation, he immediately laughed heartily. It seemed like he didn't care that he would die after Tang Ao was killed by Shui Yuehong and the others. Xue Ken's words stunned everyone. However, they still didn't understand what he meant. Xue Ken's appearance was too strange. Although Xue Ken's cultivation level wasn't high, everyone could feel a trace of threat from him. This guy is a bit strange. Let's get rid of him first. The existence of the bloodstains made the short warrior feel uncomfortable. Although it was a little funny to say that a martial artist at the peak of the 9th level of the body refining realm actually felt threatened by a martial artist at the 3rd level of the body refining realm, this was the truth. Hence, this short and skinny martial artist also took heavy steps towards Blood Scar. Seeing this person walking towards him, Xue Heng raised his head and said unhappily, "Scram, I'm not interested in your blood." As soon as Xue Heng said this, anger flashed across the short cultivator's face. He suddenly swung his right hand, and a giant stone hammer-life spirit instantly appeared in his right hand. Then, he violently smashed it towards Xue Heng. Seeing this guy attack Blood Scar, Tang Ao felt a headache coming on. In theory, Blood Scar was invincible in this place, But that was only after he had matured. Right now, Bloodscar was merely at the third level of the body refining realm. Killing Bloodscar at this time was simply too easy. Although Bloodscar's words were tough, his heart was extremely weak. If he was at his peak, he wouldn't even bother to kill this body refining realm ant. But now, Bloodscar had to admit that he really wasn't this ant's opponent. However, the giant stone hammer life spirit in the warrior's hand was ultimately blocked by Tang Ao before it could hit Bloodscar's head. Seeing Tang Ao use his giant stone hammer life spirit with one hand, the short warrior's eyelids twitched. Just now, when Tang Ao and Shwekin fought head-on, they didn't dare to underestimate Tang Ao anymore. Now, it seemed that Tang Ao's strength wasn't weak. Chapter 1543. The wealth of a peak 9-star alchemist was something to look forward to. However, before Shui Yuehong's long sword could stab into Tang Ao's body, Tang Ao's expression suddenly changed. He grabbed Shui Hen and ran in a certain direction. Tang Ao's actions confused Shui Yuehong and the others. Logically, with Tang Ao's ability to fight against Shui Hen, even if Tang Ao couldn't beat the 6 of them, if Shui Yuehong and the others didn't all attack, it shouldn't be too hard for Tang Ao to kill a few of them. However, what everyone didn't understand was that Tang Ao didn't choose to attack. Instead, he just ran away. In this special barrier space, everyone's sole remembrance was disrupted. Therefore, aside from Tang Ao, who had heavenly pole pupils, the others didn't know what had happened. The reason Tang Ao ran away was because Tang Ao saw countless skeletons fighting a black monster not far away. Moreover, the battlefield was continuously moving towards him. In the middle of the battle, Tang Ao could clearly see many existences at the first level of the origin martial realm. No matter if it was the skeletons or the pitch-black monsters, they were all at the first level of the origin martial realm. These black monsters looked like humans, but their bodies were pitch-black and they didn't have any facial features. Moreover, they could split and fuse. Tang Ao personally saw some of the black monsters being cut in half by the skeletons and then immediately split into 2 black monsters. However, after splitting, the black monster's strength would decrease. However, these black monsters would fuse with each other, and after fusing, their strength would increase. Currently, Tang Ao already saw a black monster at the 3rd level of the origin martial realm in the middle of the battle. This monster's body was extremely large, and its strength surpassed the 1st level of the origin martial realm in the Flying Star continent. However, in the chaotic battle between the skeletons and the black monsters, Tang Ao didn't see the young girl from before. After running for some distance, Tang Ao directly released Bloodscar into the chaotic 6 light mirror. Bloodscar was a very special existence in the Flying Star continent. However, he was too weak at the moment. If Tang Ao left him outside, Tang Ao was really worried that this guy would die in a moment of carelessness. If that happened, Tang Ao would suffer a great loss. After being thrown into the space of the chaotic hexagram mirror by Tang Ao, Bloodscar looked at this ancient, vast, and majestic space, speechless for a long time. Before Shui Han died in her previous life, her natal blood spirit was absorbed into the Blood Fang spear life spirit and was absorbed into the vast thousand world. Although Shui Han was in a state of deep sleep, he could still feel the evolution of the vast thousand world. Now, Tang Ao's space was not inferior to the space of the vast thousand domains. After seeing this space, Bloodscar also understood why Tang Ao didn't die in his previous life. Tang Ao must have hidden in this space and escaped the disaster. In fact, this time Bloodscar was wrong. Although Tang Ao obtained the chaotic 6 light mirror in his previous life, Tang Ao didn't know the use of the chaotic 6 light mirror. In other words, without the approval of the chaotic 6 light mirror, he couldn't use the chaotic 6 light mirror at all. If Tang Ao could use the primal chaos 6 light mirror in his previous life, then no matter how powerful Origin Magnet Tao Venerate was, as long as Tang Ao hid in the Primal Chaos 6 Light Mirror, Origin Magnet Tao Venerate wouldn't be able to do anything to Tang Ao. In the Red Desert, although Tang Ao began to escape after discovering the battle between the skeletons and the black monsters, there were now many skeletons and black monsters around Tang Ao. Chapter 1544. It seemed that as long as they weren't of the same species, they would become their target. What made Tang Ao feel better was that these skeletons and black fog monsters weren't only attacking him. Shui Yuehong and Yan Shuang's group of 6 were also the targets of the black fog monsters and skeletons. Moreover, in the battle, Tang Ao discovered that other than the human skeletons he encountered at the beginning, there were also many beast skeletons. Moreover, compared to the human skeletons, these beast skeletons were much stronger. Among the human skeletons, the ones Tang Ao saw were only at the 7th or 8th level of the body refinement realm. However, the beast skeletons were much stronger. Tang Ao saw a skeleton that looked like a raging bull. This raging bull skeleton actually reached the 4th level of the Origin martial realm. Seeing this guy, Tang Ao distanced himself even further. With Tang Ao's current strength, dealing with a few first-level Origin martial realm black fog monsters and skeletons wasn't a problem. However, if he encountered an existence at the 4th level of the Origin martial realm, Tang Ao would be done for. Just at this moment, a scream suddenly came from behind Tang Ao. Tang Ao scanned with his soul remembrance, but Tang Ao's soul remembrance was still suppressed and he couldn't see anything. Immediately, Tang Ao turned around and saw that the martial artist that attacked Shui Hen had completely red eyes. His eyes were flashing with blood-red runes, and he was currently crazily attacking. The scream just now came from a martial artist beside him who was caught off guard and was hit by his enormous rock hammer. His brain immediately spilled everywhere and he died on the spot. Seeing this scene, Tang Ao understood that Shui Hen indeed had some method. Even if he didn't help him, Shui Hen would most likely be fine. Tang Ao and Shui Hen were sworn enemies in his previous life. Regarding Shui Hen's methods, Tang Ao was also very clear. The current state of this short martial artist was that of Shui Hen's blood soul curse. At this moment the entire Scarlet Wasteland was in a mess. Not far away, Tang Ao saw the silhouettes of a group of warriors, and this time, the number of warriors was very large. Seeing so many warriors coming over, Tang Ao felt a little strange. The reason why Shui Can, Yan Shuang, and the rest were able to make it here was because they were all at the peak of the 9th level of the body refining realm. Some were even at the Sea of Souls realm. However, the martial artists who came here this time were somewhat mixed. Tang Ao saw Yang Miao, who wanted to catch him on the alchemy platform, and Shun Luoli, who was in a somewhat sorry state. At this moment, Shun Luoli's aura was somewhat chaotic. It was obvious that she had been injured. Besides the first time, Tang Ao also saw Zhang Zifen. However, Tang Ao didn't have much interaction with Zhang Zifen. Tang Ao only knew that Zhang Zifen used the golden pupils. Other than these people, there were also some martial artists at the 6th level of the body refining realm. Some were even at the 5th level of the body refining realm. Seeing these martial artists, Tang Ao was even more puzzled. Could it be that the miasma in the poison miasma canyon was so easy to pass through? Otherwise, why would even martial artists at the 5th level of the body refining realm come here? What Tang Ao didn't know was that when the skeletons and the black fog monsters were fighting in this space, the entire poison miasma canyon shook violently. Then, the poisonous miasma in the poison miasma canyon seemed to be attracted by something. All of it actually surged into the depths of the poison miasma canyon. As the crowd of cultivators followed the miasma, they saw a crimson spirit formation space. This space looked very sturdy, as if there was no way to enter this bounded space. But in reality, many warriors had just taken a step forward and entered this crimson space. After entering this space, the first thing that came into view was naturally the skeletons and black fog monsters that were fighting together. When these skeletons and black fog monsters discovered the martial artists who had entered this space, they immediately started fighting with these martial artists. The martial artists with higher cultivation were still fine. Under such attacks, they could still observe the situation around them with ease. However, the martial artists with lower cultivation were quickly surrounded by these huge numbers of skeletons and black fog monsters. Then, they didn't even have time to scream before they completely collapsed on this red wasteland. Chapter 1545. Chi. Tang Ao raised his right hand and pointed. Immediately, a green lotus sword Chi shot out of Tang Ao's fingertip and pierced through a black fog monster that was charging at Tang Ao. Through the sky polar eyes, Tang Ao found that there was a crystal in the black fog monster's head. Only by shattering this crystal could the black fog monster be killed. Moreover, what surprised Tang Ao the most was that this crystal was shockingly yuan crystal. However, these yuan crystals were complete in the black fog monster's head. Once the black fog monster's life ended, the crystal immediately shattered. Tang Ao had just seen Blood Yuehong tear apart a black fog monster with her bare hands. Theoretically, a black fog monster like that shouldn't have been able to destroy a yuan crystal. However, after Tang Ao saw the black fog monster die, the yuan crystal in his head also instantly shattered. Although it was broken, Blood Yuehong still didn't hesitate to put it away. Clearly, by this time, many people already knew that the yuan crystal fragments were good stuff. The warriors that came later didn't think that the yuan crystal fragments would actually fall out of the monster's head. Before, people had risked their lives to search for yuan crystals in the miasma for a long time without being able to find them. But here, they only needed to kill black fog monsters to get them. How could these warriors miss such a good thing? However, at this moment, on the bloody wasteland, there were many skeletons besides the black fog monsters. Killing the black fog monsters could give yuan crystals, but killing skeletons gave nothing. At first, some warriors collected some bone powder, but later, the skeletons collected more and more bone powder, and these warriors lost interest in collecting. Now, most warriors didn't want to fight the skeletons. Instead, they specifically looked for the black fog monsters to steal yuan crystals. However, whether it was the black fog monsters or the skeletons, as long as they weren't the same species, they would be attacked. Therefore, the scene at this moment was very chaotic. Amidst the chaos, Tang Ao suddenly felt something rushing towards him from behind. Tang Ao turned around to look and saw Yang Miao, who was constantly closing in on him. After seeing him, Yang Miao seemed to be very excited. He actually completely ignored the black fog monsters that could produce origin crystals and chased after him. If Tang Ao still had the cultivation of the 5th level of the body refinement realm, then Tang Ao could only run right now. However, Tang Ao was a martial artist in the 8th level of the body refinement realm. Although there was still a distance between him and Yang Miao in the 1st level of the origin realm, the current Tang Ao was truly not afraid of Yang Miao. Although Tang Ao and Yang Miao were blocked by many black fog monsters and skeletons, Yang Miao still pushed forward in an overbearing manner. Whether it was the skeletons, the black fog monsters, or even the other warriors blocking Yang Miao, they were all sent flying by Yang Miao tyrannically. At this time, Tang Ao could also see that although Shui Can and Yang Miao were both experts on the hidden dragon ranking, Shui Can was much inferior compared to Yang Miao. Of course, this could also be because of Shui Can's interference. However, Tang Ao really didn't dare to underestimate Yang Miao, who was rushing at Tang Ao. Soon, Yang Miao arrived in front of Tang Ao. Without any useless words, Yang Miao slapped a palm towards Tang Ao's dantian. Clearly, he wanted to heavily injure Tang Ao and then take Tang Ao away. Seeing Yang Miao's attack, Tang Ao inwardly shook his head. Yang Miao looked down on him too much. He actually wanted to injure him like that. Chapter 1546. Yang Miao looked at Tang Ao in disbelief. He had wanted to capture Tang Ao just now, even though he didn't notice Tang Ao's cultivation. But at this moment, he could clearly feel Tang Ao's cultivation. He was at the 8th level of the body refining realm. Yang Miao was the first to attack Tang Ao on the alchemy platform, so Yang Miao naturally remembered that Tang Ao's cultivation was only at the 5th level of the body refining realm. But how long had it been? Tang Ao's cultivation had actually risen to the 8th level of the body refining realm. No, at this time, Yang Miao also remembered that Tang Ao had consumed the supreme grade vitality cultivating pill on the alchemy platform. Back then, because Tang Ao had refined a 9-star supreme grade vitality cultivating pill, Yang Miao was too shocked. All his thoughts were on capturing Tang Ao, so he didn't notice that Tang Ao had consumed the supreme grade vitality cultivating pill. After seeing Tang Ao again, Yang Miao immediately thought of this. The supreme grade vitality cultivating pill couldn't be consumed directly. This was the consensus of many martial artists in the Flying Star continent, but not long ago, Tang Ao had consumed it directly. Moreover, nothing had happened to Tang Ao. He had even summoned a very powerful life soul and counterattacked while resisting his palm. Thinking of this, Yang Miao's eyes revealed a look of interest. It seemed that Tang Ao wasn't as simple as he seemed. Other than being a 9-star alchemist, Tang Ao had other secrets. Alchemist Tang Ao, I'll give you a chance. Open your soul remembrance and let me imprint it. I guarantee that you will be unobstructed in the dragon subduing cave and even in the Flying Star continent. Then we will only be partners. I can provide you with all the spirit herbs and cultivation resources you need. What do you think? Not much. Tang Ao shrugged nonchalantly. Previously, Tang Ao had not needed any help when he was at the 5th level of the body refining realm. Now that Tang Ao's cultivation had recovered to the 8th level of the body refining realm, he naturally did not need any help at all. Moreover, Tang Ao felt a bit better. Within a day, there had already been 2 people who had tried to plant soul imprints in his soul remembrance to control him. Yet, one of them was heavily injured and had fled far away. The remaining one probably wouldn't be long. Additionally, Tang Ao himself had planted a soul imprint in Blood Scar's soul remembrance. Normally speaking, after a martial artist's soul remembrance was planted with a soul imprint, one could completely control the martial artist. Therefore, many martial artists would rather die than be branded with a soul brand. Furthermore, in order to plant a soul brand on a martial artist, the other party would normally have to completely open their mind. It could leave a soul imprint in a martial artist's soul remembrance. This was because, during the process of planting a soul brand, if the martial artist resisted too intensely, they could also receive a backlash. Previously, when Blood Scar was controlled by Tang Ao, it was because Blood Scar had just reconstructed his fleshly body and was in an extremely weak state. Therefore, it was so easy for Tang Ao to succeed. But now, if Yang Miao wanted to forcefully plant a soul brand on Tang Ao could only say that Yang Miao didn't have the qualifications. Oh, it seems like Pill Master Tang Ao is a bit blindly confident in his own strength. As Yang Miao spoke, he suddenly stepped forward. A seal appeared in his hand and he pressed it towards Tang Ao's forehead. Just like Tang Ao's thoughts, Yang Miao also wanted to do what Tang Ao did to Blood Scar to control Tang Ao. It was just that these tricks that Tang Ao played were completely useless against Tang Ao. Chapter 1547. Tang Ao's current cultivation wasn't high, but Yang Miao still felt a trace of threat from Tang Ao. Following the battle between Tang Ao and Yang Miao, some martial artists who came in later also discovered Tang Ao. These people had seen Tang Ao at the alchemy conference, so they naturally knew Tang Ao's value. How much wealth would a top 9-star alchemist have on him? Just thinking about it made them feel terrified. Most importantly, unlike other 9-star alchemists, Tang Ao's cultivation was very weak. Previously, when Tang Ao was concocting pills at the alchemy conference, everyone saw that Tang Ao was only at the 5th level of the body refining realm. It was also because of this that so many people had ideas about Tang Ao. But now, seeing Tang Ao and Yang Miao fighting together, and not at a disadvantage at all, everyone was immediately a little stunned. Because at this moment, under everyone's perception, Tang Ao was also only at the 8th level of the body refining realm. If it was on the Flying Star continent, the 8th level of the body refining realm was already not bad, because the Flying Star continent was vast, and not every place had so many powerful martial artists. But in the Hidden Dragon Crypt, the 8th level of the body refining realm could only be considered average, because the Hidden Dragon Crypt was full of martial artists, and because of the existence of Evergreen Valley, cultivation resources were more abundant than outside the Hidden Dragon Crypt. Martial artists outside the Hidden Dragon Crypt, the gap under the same realm might not be very large, but in the Hidden Dragon Crypt, martial artists of the same realm had a very large difference, and martial artists of the same realm often needed to be divided. Just like Shui Weihong and the others, although they were also martial artists at the 9th level of the body refining realm, if a newly advanced 9th level martial artist went to challenge Shui Weihong and the others, they definitely wouldn't even be able to last 3 moves. In the Poison Miasma Canyon, due to the disappearance of the poisonous miasma, more and more martial artists came to this blood-colored space. After these martial artists came here, they were immediately stunned by the scene in front of them. In this blood-red space, countless black fog monsters and skeletons were fighting each other. Among them, there were many warriors hunting the black fog monsters. After the black fog monsters were killed, they would obtain the origin crystals that they had been dreaming of. Now, the martial artists who came to the Miasma Canyon, Su Du had already experienced the benefits of essence crystals. The origin crystal contained an astonishingly terrifying amount of origin energy, but for some reason, when a martial artist absorbed and refined the origin energy within the origin crystal, they could only absorb an extremely small amount of origin energy. But even so, everyone was still incomparably fanatical about origin crystals. That was the vitality within the crystals. As long as there was a crystal, it could be absorbed and refined without any side effects. Essence crystals were like a kind of essence-nourishing pill without pill poison. No matter how many essence crystals you had, you could use them all. Because of this, the essence crystals scattered around the periphery of the Poison Miasma Canyon were basically used up by many martial artists. Of course, there were not many essence crystals in the periphery of the Poison Miasma Canyon. At this moment, everyone looked at the black fog monsters in the blood-colored space and felt extremely happy. Because they could obtain crystals by killing the black fog monsters, looking at the endless black fog monsters was like seeing countless crystals. Chapter 1548. Right now, Tang Ao was still only at the 8th level of the body refinement realm, but he was different from all the body refinement realm 8s that Yang Miao had seen before. Tang Ao was simply terrifyingly strong. At that time, if it was a weaker origin realm martial artist, they wouldn't even be able to defeat Tang Ao. In reality, Yang Miao was not wrong at all. Although Xue Ken was defeated by Xue Hen not long ago, even if Xue Hen didn't interfere, Xue Ken was absolutely not able to defeat Tang Ao. But just like what Yang Miao thought, Tang Ao had no problem dealing with normal people at the first level of the origin realm. But when he faced a martial artist at the peak of the first level of the origin realm like Yang Miao, Tang Ao could do nothing. Although Tang Ao's attacks were abnormally fierce, a martial artist at the peak of the first level of the origin realm, also had some skill. At that instant, Tang Ao and Yang Miao were in a stalemate situation. Seeing that Tang Ao was so strong, no martial artist went up to help. Tang Ao was very attractive to them, but that was under the premise that they could control Tang Ao. In a situation like that, how could they have the ability to control Tang Ao? One had to know that Tang Ao and Yang Miao were evenly matched. If they went up, they wouldn't be capturing Tang Ao, they would be sending themselves to their death. Luckily, the appearance of origin crystals made them happy to see that scene. Although there were many martial artists here, Yang Miao was clearly the strongest. If it wasn't for Yang Miao and Tang Ao fighting together, God knows how many origin crystals the two of them would have taken. Although there seemed to be a lot of black fog monsters here, as the black fog monsters and skeletons fought, as well as the many martial artists killing the black fog monsters, the low-level black fog monsters became less and less. There were fewer and fewer low-level black fog monsters. These martial artists were very smart. At the beginning, no one was busy dealing with the high-level black fog monsters. It was because it was easier to get origin crystals by killing low-level black fog monsters. Although the size of origin crystals were a bit smaller and the grade was a bit lower, due to the special nature of origin crystals, no one cared about those things. However, there was a limit to the number of low-level black fog monsters. As the team continued to hunt them down, there were almost no black fog monsters below level 6. Moreover, it was different from the beginning. At this moment, for the sake of seizing the origin crystals, some martial artists had started to kill each other, and the scene had become extremely chaotic. Tang Ao was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Tang Ao knew that the yuan qi contained in the yuan crystal was not that simple. It must be a very rare treasure. Therefore, Tang Ao also wanted to collect a lot of yuan crystals. But this Yang Miao seemed to have gone mad and just chased after him. And right now, Tang Ao's cultivation was only at the 8th level of the body refinement realm. When he fought with Yang Miao, who was at the 1st level of the origin realm, they were not much different. In this situation where they couldn't do anything to each other, Yang Miao was simply wasting Tang Ao's time. Although there were still a lot of black fog monsters, Tang Ao was faintly worried because the appearance of the black fog monsters was very sudden. Tang Ao was the first to come to the blood-colored space. But when Tang Ao came to the blood-colored space, there were only endless skeletons. At that time, Tang Ao used the celestial polar eyes to investigate, but Tang Ao did not discover the existence of the black fog monsters. Chapter 1549. Tang Ao was convinced by Yang Miao. Tang Ao really couldn't understand why, at a time like this, Yang Miao, as the strongest martial artist here, couldn't get along with him. If Yang Miao went to collect origin crystals from the start, then everyone here, including Tang Ao, probably wouldn't have collected as many origin crystals as Yang Miao did. But what made Tang Ao feel very helpless was that Yang Miao had no plans to collect origin crystals at all and just kept wasting time with him. That's easy. As long as you let go of your soul and let me plant a soul remembrance imprint, I can guarantee you'll be safe. At the same time, you can have as many of these origin crystals as you want. Yang Miao indeed needed Tang Ao to concoct pills. Moreover, he needed Tang Ao to concoct a very special pill. That pill was called the Adversity Surpassing Pill. Perhaps many alchemists hadn't even heard of it. This was a gradeless pill, and its effect was very special. Concocting that pill required alchemists to pay half of their life. The Adversity Surpassing Pill's effect was to allow martial artists to break through their limits and step into a higher level of existence. When Yang Miao was exploring a historical remnant in the Evergreen Valley, he found the Adversity Surpassing Pill's pill recipe. The alchemist even found a small piece of the Adversity Surpassing Pill's dregs. After using the dregs, Yang Miao actually had a feeling that he was going to break through to the first level of the origin realm. However, the dregs of the adversity surpassing pill were too little, so Yang Miao couldn't do what he wanted. But also because of that, Yang Miao was very certain that there were even higher realms above the first level of the origin realm. The existence of the adversity surpassing pill could break the shackles of the flying star continent towards martial artists. It allowed martial artists to surpass the first level of the origin realm and reach even higher realms. That was Yang Miao's greatest secret. In order to keep that secret to himself, the people who explored the historical remnant with Yang Miao were all killed by Yang Miao. After getting the adversity surpassing pill recipe, Yang Miao also hiddenly caught many rather powerful alchemists to help him concoct pills. But what made Yang Miao very disappointed was that although these alchemists were famous, their abilities were terrible. Yang Miao caught over 20 alchemists, but not a single one could help Yang Miao concoct the adversity surpassing pill. The weakest alchemist didn't even finish refining the ingredients before the adversity surpassing pill in their bodies were sucked dry by the adversity surpassing pill. And some of the more powerful pill masters, under Yang Miao's coercion, although they refined the embryonic form of the pill, they still couldn't refine the complete crossing adversity pill. After so many alchemists failed, Miao, Yang, Miao, 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 Yang, Miao, Yang, Miao, Yang, Miao, Miao, that me, Yang, Miao, Yang, Miao, adv, Yang, me, Yang, Miao, didn't Miao, add to Miao, 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 Yang, the Miao, Yang, Tian, Miao, Miao, me, Yang, Ming, Miao, Yang, Miao, that Miao, Yang, T, Miao was Miao, Abel, he, Miao, Yang, me, Miao, Miao. Yang Lin Tian Yang Lin I Yang. Ru Miao. Chapter 1550. However, after seeing Tang Ao and Gong Yangzhou at the pill concocting conference, Yang Miao's heart was immediately ignited with the flames of hope. Originally, Yang Miao was prepared to capture Gong Yangzhou because Gong Yangzhou was about the same as Tang Ao. Although at that time, Gong Yangzhou already had the cultivation of the body refinement realm, in Yang Miao's eyes, those under the origin realm were ants. So, Yang Miao didn't care about Gong Yangzhou's cultivation. So, when Gong Yangzhou concocted the 7-star top-quality spirit cultivating pill, Yang Miao wanted to capture him. However, Gong Yangzhou was clearly a lot smarter than Tang Ao. After concocting the 7-star top-quality spirit cultivating pill, Gong Yangzhou knew that his performance was too outstanding. It was likely that he already attracted the attention of quite a few people. So, when Lin Ruchang sent an invitation to Gong Yangzhou accepted without hesitation. So, at that time, even if Yang Miao wanted to capture Gong Yangzhou, he didn't have any chance. As for charging into the Pill Alliance's headquarters to capture people, Yang Miao didn't have the courage, or rather, he was stupid to that degree. In the Pill Alliance, other than the Alliance Master Lin Ruchang, there was also a Supreme Elder. They were all peak level 1 Origin Realm martial artists. If Yang Miao wasn't tired of living, he wouldn't have gone to the Pill Alliance to behave atrociously. Just as Yang Miao was thinking about how to capture Gong Yangzhou, Tang Ao very shockingly concocted a 9-star top-quality spirit cultivating pill. In addition, Tang Ao concocted the hardest 9-star pill, the Heavy Yang pill, in the second round. So, Yang Miao was sure that if there were any alchemists in the Flying Star continent who could concoct the adversity-surpassing pill, that alchemist had to be Tang Ao. Also because of that, there was the scene of Yang Miao destroying the pill concocting platform's spirit formation on the pill concocting plaza. At that moment, Yang Miao and the Pill Alliance already became mortal enemies, but Yang Miao was not afraid at all. As long as he caught Tang Ao and let Tang Ao successfully concoct the adversity-surpassing pill, the entire Pill Alliance would not be able to do anything to him. Right now, the Alliance Master of the Flying Star Alliance, Lu Chuanjia, was known as the limit of the Origin Realm. However, as long as Yang Miao had the adversity-surpassing pill, he could break through that limit. At that time, Yang Miao believed that even Lu Chuanjia would not be his match. However, all of this was based on capturing Tang Ao and getting Tang Ao to help him refine the system adversity pill. Or else, he shouldn't even think about breaking the limits of the Origin Realm. The thing he needed to consider the most was how to face the fury of the Dan Alliance. If it was just Lin Ruchang alone, Yang Miao would not take it to heart. However, if Lin Ruchang and the old monster of the Dan Alliance came to find him together, it was still a question whether he could escape or not. Ever since the establishment of the Dan Alliance, there have been many martial warriors who have provoked the dignity of the Dan Alliance. However, none of those martial warriors are still alive. From this matter, it could also be seen that although the Dan Alliance stood aloof from worldly affairs, if someone provoked the Dan Alliance's pressure, then that person would only have a path of death. So now that he was in a deadlock with Tang Ao, Yang Miao was even more anxious than Tang Ao. If Lin Ruchang took care of the matters of the Dan Alliance at this time and chased after him with the old monster of the Dan Alliance, it would be very difficult for him to handle this calamity. Just as Yang Miao was in a dilemma, Yang Miao suddenly saw the silver-haired female not far away. Tang Ao also knew that silver-haired female. Just like Yang Miao, this silver-haired female also wanted to capture Tang Ao back then. Chapter 1551. Also, even if she used some methods to restrain Tang Ao, controlling Tang Ao wasn't that simple. A weak alchemist was easy to control, but if you kept a strong alchemist by your side to concoct pills, it was like keeping a bomb that could explode at any time. In addition, origin crystals were also not small to Han Yen. Right now, after Yang Miao and Tang Ao, the two idiots, suppressed each other. Naturally, most of the high-grade origin crystals were taken by Han Yen. Just as Han Yen put a fist-sized origin crystal into her storage ring, she heard Yang Miao's words. "Junior Han Yen, help me capture Tang Ao, and I'll give you the benefits I got from the remains." Yang Miao's words were very obscure, but after Han Yen heard it, her brows moved. Back then, Yang Miao discovered a very special ancient remains in the Evergreen Valley. When exploring the remains, including Yang Miao, there were a total of 4 Origin Realm martial artists and a dozen Body Refinement Realm martial artists. But no one knew what happened to Yang Miao and the others in the remains, causing Yang Miao to kill 3 Origin Realm martial artists of the same level with his own power despite being heavily injured. Then, he also killed the dozen or so high-level Body Refinement Realm martial artists. Since Yang Miao was also heavily injured after killing the 3 Origin Realm martial artists, he escaped without even dealing with the corpses. So, Han Yen quickly discovered the remains. According to some clues, Han Yen also discovered some things. But Han Yen knew that the most important things were definitely swept away by Yang Miao. Even for those treasures, Yang Miao didn't hesitate to kill 3 martial artists of the same level with his life on the line. So, Han Yen knew that the secret in the remains was definitely not a small matter. After Han Yen carefully searched the remains several times, she did indeed find some very good things. Also because of that, Han Yen became more and more interested in the things that Yang Miao swept away. However, Han Yen found Yang Miao many times and also raised quite a few exchange conditions, but Yang Miao didn't have the slightest thought of exchanging. What Han Yen never would have thought was that this time, in order to deal with Tang Ao, Yang Miao was actually willing to tell her the secret of the remains. Although Han Yen really wanted to know the secret of the relic, she did not immediately agree. This was the best time to extort money. How could Han Yen agree so easily? Therefore, Han Yen clapped her hands and immediately came to Tang Ao and Yang Miao's side. At this moment, Tang Ao and Yang Miao were still fighting. Tang Ao wanted to run a few times, but he didn't succeed. Although Yang Miao had always wanted to capture Tang Ao, his strength was clearly not that strong. At this moment, it was not a problem to say that the two of them were equally matched. After seeing Han Yen coming over, Tang Ao secretly complained in his heart. Tang Ao knew this woman. Back then, Han Yen had also attacked him on the pill refining platform, and Tang Ao also knew that this woman's methods were definitely not inferior to Yang Miao's. In this kind of situation, Tang Ao and Yang Miao were evenly matched. Any random move by Han Yen would break this balance. Chapter 1552. Han Yen crossed her arms in front of her chest and stood to the side looking at Tang Ao with a smile. No one knew what she was thinking. Although Tang Ao knew that Han Yen would most likely make a move against him this time, but now that Han Yen took the initiative to talk to him, Tang Ao could only hope to get lucky and said, "Fairy Han Yen, if you have any pills that you need this Tang Ao's help to refine, this Tang Ao will definitely not shirk. It's just that for now, I hope that Fairy will not interfere." Although Tang Ao was in a stalemate with Yang Miao at the moment, it was different from Yang Miao. Tang Ao still had methods to deal with Yang Miao. Just now, when Tang Ao was preparing to deal with the endless number of skeletons, he had already arranged a thunderbolt killing array. At this moment, the thunderbolt killing array required 36 sets of void array runes. Tang Ao had already condensed 28 array rune imprints. As long as Tang Ao finished condensing the last 8 imprints in a while, at that time, Tang Ao would definitely not let Yang Miao have the chance to regret. But Han Yan's arrival surprised Tang Ao. Now that he was fighting with Yang Miao, Han Yan was obviously the biggest beneficiary. Because among the many warriors present, no one was qualified to compete with her for Yuan crystals. So as long as she was interested in Yuan crystals, it would basically be hers. Therefore, Tang Ao really could not understand why Han Yen would interfere at this time. Although Tang Ao also thought that after his thunder-killing array was set up and after dealing with Yang Miao, he would teach this beauty a lesson. But now it seemed that Tang Ao most likely would not have the chance to teach Han Yen a lesson. When Han Yen heard Tang Ao's words, she giggled again. This little girl really does have a pill that needs Pill Master Tang Ao's help to refine. Is Pill Master Tang Ao really willing to help me refine this pill? After all these years of investigation, Han Yen knew that the secret that Yang Miao risked his life to protect was a very special pill. However, Han Yen didn't know what this pill was, and only vaguely knew the effects of this pill. So this time, even if she helped Yang Miao restrain Tang Ao, Han Yen had to see the pill formula first. Otherwise, Yang Miao could forget about it. Moreover, Han Yen believed that as long as Yang Miao was not that stupid, he should know that he could not keep the pill formula at this time. In fact, when Yang Miao asked Han Yen to help, Yang Miao had already expected this situation. Moreover, it was also because Han Yen knew some secrets in the ruins that Yang Miao chose to join hands with Han Yen. Therefore, Yang Miao pondered for a moment, and before Han Yen could speak, he threw a golden scroll at her. This golden scroll was very ancient. After she felt of Han, she felt that Yang Yen of the golden scroll. Of Yen of Miao of Yang Miao of Yang of. Chapter 1553. In other words, if the current Yang Miao didn't completely offend the Dan Alliance and was at the end of his rope, Yang Miao would absolutely not tell that secret to her. After reading the entire golden scroll, Han Yen smiled, then said to Yang Miao, "Thank you for your gift." As Han Yen spoke, she put away the golden scroll in front of Yang Miao. Seeing that scene, Yang Miao wanted to vomit blood, but he also knew that he had no choice at that time. If he didn't take out the real item, Han Yen would absolutely not cooperate with him. After Han Yen put away the golden scroll, she didn't immediately attack Tang Ao. She asked Yang Miao, "Senior Yang Miao, How are you sure that what's on this scroll is true? That was the question that Han Yen was most concerned about. Even though the scroll described the adversity-surpassing pill in an extravagant manner, if the so-called adversity-surpassing pill was fabricated by the predecessors to fool the later generations, then now that Han Yen helped Yang Miao, she would be standing on the opposite side of the Dan Alliance. Different from Yang Miao, Han Yen was very clear about the Dan Alliance's strength. The alliance head of the Dan Alliance, Lin Ruchang, was a martial artist at the peak of the first level of the Origin Realm. The Vice Alliance head, Xia Baichao, also reached the first level of the Origin Realm half a year ago. The most terrifying was the old undying guy in the Dan Alliance. Even though it was said that the old guy died many times, every time the Dan Alliance faced danger, the old guy was still there and his strength was terrifyingly strong. Han Yen remembered that the last time the old guy attacked was against Lu Chuanjia. The result was that the two of them fought for 100 rounds, and it was hard to determine the victor. Even though the Dan Alliance's Supreme Elder was old, if the Dan Alliance was determined to get rid of Yang Miao, the thorn that offended the Dan Alliance, then Yang Miao would not be able to live. Even though the Dan Alliance's Supreme Elder was already old, if the Dan Alliance was determined to get rid of Yang Miao, the thorn that offended the Dan Alliance, then Yang Miao would not be able to live. Even though back then on the pill concocting platform, Han Yen also attacked Tang Ao, there were quite a few people who attacked the pill concocting platform and the Dan Alliance could not investigate all of them. However, Yang Miao, who was the first to break the barrier of the Dan Alliance's pill refining platform, would definitely not be able to escape. Therefore, before he could confirm if the adversity-surpassing pill recorded on the scroll was really effective, Han Yen still did not want to attack Tang Ao. If Tang Ao was just an ordinary alchemist in the Dan Alliance, then even if Han Yen attacked Tang Ao, it would not be a big problem. But now Tang Ao was the seventh elder of the Dan Alliance. She and Yang Miao had worked together to capture the elder of the Dan Alliance. If the Dan Alliance did not come to find her like this, then she would be too naive. Since he had decided to cooperate with Han Yen, Yang Miao naturally wouldn't hide it. Back then, I obtained the dregs of a pill in the ruins. After consuming it, I could clearly feel the feeling described on the scroll. Now that things have come to this, if you believe me, then hurry up and do it. If you don't believe me, then there's nothing I can do. Back then on the alchemy platform, Yang Miao and the rest made a mess of the alchemy platform, and the alchemy plaza was also in chaos. But after such a long time, Yang Miao felt that the Dan Alliance had already taken care of the matters of the alchemy plaza. It was also because of this that Yang Miao was in such a hurry to restrain Tang Ao. Otherwise, with his essence qi at the peak of the first level of the body refining realm, even if he had to grind Tang Ao to death, he would not be in such a hurry to ask Han Yen to take action. Since senior brother Yang Miao has said so, then alchemist Tang Ao can only let you down. Just as Han Yen finished speaking, 2 rays of silver light instantly appeared in her hands. These were 2 small and exquisite 2-handed swords. Their speed was astonishing. Originally, Tang Ao and Yang Miao were fighting inextricably, but now that Han Yen had launched a sneak attack, Tang Ao immediately felt a chill under his ribs. After sending Yang Miao flying back with a palm strike, Tang Ao immediately wanted to escape. The pair of 2-handed swords in Han Yen's hands was extremely powerful, and this pair of 2-handed swords was the best immortal equipment that Tang Ao had seen in the Flying Star continent so far. Although Tang Ao had seen many immortal equipment before, those immortal equipment were all defective. However, the pair of 2-handed swords in Han Yan's hands was impressively a complete Grade 1 immortal equipment. It was also because this pair of 2-handed swords were complete Grade 1 immortal equipment that Tang Ao's Battle Sage Bone Life Soul was like tofu on this pair of silver swords. Just now, Tang Ao didn't even have time to react before Han Yan's silver sword pierced through his body. However, Tang Ao couldn't escape just now, so naturally, he couldn't escape now. Chapter 1554. Feeling the coldness in the wound below his ribs, Tang Ao couldn't help but look at the two silver swords in Han Yan's hands. These two double-handed swords were Grade 1 immortal artifacts, and they were still intact. It was precisely because of this that the Battle Saint Bone Life soul became vulnerable in front of this silver sword. Of course, this also had a lot to do with Tang Ao's broken sea of soul. If it was Tang Ao at his peak, the Battle Saint Bone Life soul from the 29th heaven might not be able to block a mere Grade 1 immortal artifact. Looking at the pair of small and exquisite double-handed swords in Han Yan's hands, Tang Ao secretly sighed in his heart. In his previous life, Tang Ao, as a peak astral-reaching realm expert, did not have an immortal artifact. However, for the martial artists of the Flying Star continent, due to the special nature of Evergreen Valley, it was possible for them to have an immortal artifact at the origin martial realm or even the body refining realm. The Evergreen Valley of the Flying Star continent was similar to the Emperor Netherworld's secret realm in the profound Yellow continent. In this life, Tang Ao had also gone to the Emperor Netherworld's secret realm to obtain an immortal artifact. Additionally, the immortal artifact that Tang Ao obtained was quite extraordinary. Whether it was the Shenong Cauldron or the primordial sacred sky bow, or even the Tai Ching profound mirror in Su Ning's hands, they were all the best among the immortal artifacts. Different from what many people guessed, Tang Ao gave the Tai Ching profound mirror to Su Ning after they parted ways in the underworld secret realm. It was not like what others said, that Tang Ao also took the Tai Ching profound mirror for himself, because the Tai Ching profound mirror was originally the treasure of the Tai Ching sect, and as the successor of the Tai Ching sect, it was reasonable for Su Ning to give the Tai Ching profound mirror to her. Now, although Tang Ao also had an immortal artifact, Tang Ao's primordial sacred sky bow and Shenong Cauldron were different from the pair of silver swords in Han Yan's hands. The pair of silver swords in Han Yan's hand was only a Grade 1 immortal artifact. Additionally, Han Yan had yet to fully refine them. Thus, she could only make use of the immortal artifact's sharpness. She was simply incapable of unleashing the immortal artifact's full power. However, Tang Ao's primordial sacred sky bow and Farmer God Cauldron were different. The Farmer God Cauldron was slightly better. With its sturdy material, Tang Ao could use it directly. But the primordial sacred heaven bow, if Tang Ao did not activate it with all his might, he could not use it at all. With Tang Ao's current cultivation, even if Tang Ao used all his might, the primordial sacred sky bow wouldn't be able to unleash much of its power. Alchemist Tang Ao, we don't want to hurt you. If you release your soul and let me brand it, I will refine a pill for you. I guarantee that you will be unhindered on the Flying Star continent in the future. At this time, Yang Miao was not in a hurry to capture Tang Ao. Because with Han Yan's help, capturing Tang Ao was already a sure thing. If Tang Ao was just a weak martial artist at the 5th level of the body refinement realm, or an ordinary 8th level of the body refinement realm, then Yang Miao would definitely not talk nonsense with Tang Ao at this moment. Instead, he would directly plant a soul brand in Tang Ao's soul remembrance. But now, Yang Miao did not have the gut. Because although Tang Ao was just a martial artist at the 8th level of the body refinement realm, Tang Ao's cultivation was so strong that it exceeded Yang Miao's understanding of the 8th level of the body refinement realm. If he did not experience it personally, Yang Miao would not believe that there was a martial artist at the 8th level of the body refinement realm who had the same strength as him. If he did not see all this with his own eyes, even if someone told him, he would think that person was a madman. Chapter 1555. As for why he had to leave a soul imprint in Tang Ao's soul remembrance, it was because he needed Tang Ao to concoct this pill called Crossing Adversity Pill, which required Tang Ao to pay half of his lifespan. If he didn't completely control Tang Ao, Yang Miao was worried that Tang Ao wouldn't obediently concoct the pill. Therefore, no matter what, Yang Miao had to leave a soul imprint in Tang Ao's soul remembrance. Only after leaving a soul imprint could Yang Miao completely control Tang Ao. At that time, Tang Ao wouldn't be able to help him concoct the system adversity pill. Originally, Yang Miao only needed one crossing adversity pill, so after Tang Ao concocted it, although Yang Miao would still control him, Yang Miao decided not to trouble Tang Ao in the future. However, now that Han Yen joined in, Han Yen definitely needed a crossing adversity pill. After concocting 2 crossing adversity pills, Tang Ao naturally wouldn't have a future. This was because concocting 1 crossing adversity pill consumed half of a pill master's lifespan. Concocting 2 in a row, the final result would be a death. In fact, it wasn't impossible for Tang Ao to die in the process. Before Tang Ao, Yang Miao had already caught many pill masters to try concocting system adversity pills. Although none of these pill masters successfully concocted the crossing adversity pill, Yang Miao knew that concocting pills really could kill. Brother Yang, why are you so overbearing? If you need to concoct any pill, this Tang will concoct it for you. As for leaving a soul imprint, that definitely won't do. After Brother Yang and Fairy Han Yen join hands, this Tang doesn't think he's a match. However, if the 2 of you want to forcefully leave a soul imprint in this Tang's soul remembrance, this Tang hopes that the 2 of you will consider it carefully. Tang Ao stalled for time with Han Yen and Yang Miao while sending his soul remembrance into the chaotic 6 light mirror space. At this moment, Xue Hen was still sitting cross-legged in the primal chaos 6 light mirror space. Although the primal chaos 6 light mirror space was filled with primal energy that was of a higher grade than immortal spiritual energy, Xue Hen was like Tang Ao. He could feel the power of this primal energy, but he couldn't use it. Brother Bloodscar, you've seen the situation outside. If you have any ideas, just tell me. If not, then we're done for. Although Bloodscar was still at the 3rd level of the body refining realm, Tang Ao would definitely not underestimate him. This Xue Scar's cultivation method was very special, and his method of escaping was top-notch. In his previous life, Bloodscar was able to keep his life in the hands of Lord Magnetite, so this time, Tang Ao was really looking forward to Bloodscar's ability to escape. Right now, I am only at the 3rd level of the body refining realm. What can I do? Even if you let me drink all of your blood, I'm still not a match for those 2 fellows outside. Just as Bloodscar was about to continue speaking, he felt his body lighten. Immediately, Bloodscar discovered that he had been released from the primal chaos 6 light mirror space by Tang Ao. Seeing this, Bloodscar silently cursed. The reason he had said that was because he wanted to stay in Tang Ao's primal chaos 6 light mirror space. Although Tang Ao had left a soul imprint in his soul remembrance, the instant Tang Ao died, he could use a secret technique to suppress Tang Ao's soul imprint. This way, after Tang Ao died, Tang Ao's primal chaos 6 light mirror would naturally belong to him. Chapter 1556. This was because many of Tang Ao's secret techniques could only be used after reaching a certain level of strength. Even though Tang Ao was at the 8th level of the body refining realm, he didn't have any methods to get out of the current danger. Xue Scar, on the other hand, was different. The higher Xue Scar's cultivation base, the more powerful his secret techniques would be. However, Tang Ao knew that even though Bloodscar's cultivation was low, Bloodscar could still use some methods. The warrior who had just attacked Xue Gu was the best example. His eyes were bloodshot, and he was going berserk in the crowd of skeletons. When Yang Miao and Han Yen saw Tang Ao suddenly grab a person, they were shocked in their hearts. The 2 of them had never seen such a method before. Although storage rings could be used to store items, storage rings could not store people. Therefore, the 2 were still wary of Bloodscar's sudden appearance. However, after confirming Bloodscar was only at the 3rd level of the body refining realm, Yang Miao and Han Yen calmed down. Although they didn't know how Blood Scar appeared out of nowhere, the two didn't feel any threat from Blood Scar. Tang Ao could fight head-on against Yang Miao, who was in the first level of the Origin Realm, with the cultivation of the 8th level of the Body Refining Realm. However, Yang Miao did not believe that Blood Scar, who was in the 3rd level of the Body Refining Realm, could fight him equally. After being thrown out by Tang Ao, Blood Scar didn't dare say anything. His current cultivation was too threatening in this place. Although after Tang Ao died, he could use a secret technique to suppress the damage from the Soul Remembrance imprint. In this place, Blood Scar was worried that even if he could suppress the damage from the Soul Remembrance imprint. In this place, Blood Scar was worried that even if he could suppress the damage from the Soul Remembrance imprint in front of Yang Miao and Han Yen, he still wouldn't be able to survive. Therefore, Blood Scar immediately bit his finger and quickly carved an incomparably profound rune on his palm. At the same time, Blood Scar transmitted to Tang Ao, "This is the Blood Shadow Escape rune. Hurry up and use your essence blood to activate it. Right now, we're no match for these two. Let's run first." What Blood Scar did this time made Tang Ao very satisfied. Tang Ao also knew that this guy wouldn't cry until he saw the coffin. If he kept talking in the Primal Chaos 6 light mirror space, how could this guy tell him he knew this kind of rune? Since he had a chance to escape, Tang Ao naturally wouldn't stay. In this place, as long as he had a chance to grow, Blood Scar was an invincible existence. Thus, it was very important for them to escape and preserve their lives. Under the puzzled gazes of Yang Miao and the other two, Tang Ao imprinted the rune on his palm. Then, a drop of blood from his forehead was drawn by the rune and slowly floated into Tang Ao's palm. After this drop of blood essence was forced out, Tang Ao's complexion greatly changed. This was because this drop of blood essence was not something that Tang Ao had voluntarily forced out. Rather, after Tang Ao had the thought of releasing his blood essence, the rune had pulled it out on its own. The instant the drop of essence blood fell into Tang Ao's palm, Tang Ao's aura immediately weakened to the extreme. Although it was only a drop of essence blood, this drop of essence blood contained 99% of Tang Ao's blood essence. Tang Ao knew that he had fallen for Blood Scar's trick. Originally, Tang Ao thought that he and Blood Scar were grasshoppers on a string. Blood Scar wouldn't harm him, but reality told Tang Ao that his thoughts were too naive. Chapter 1557. This soul remembrance message was sealed in the sigil on Tang Ao's hand by Xuehen. As for Xuehen, it was unknown where he had run off to. Though Xuehen said this, Tang Ao really didn't believe it today. He didn't believe that if he died, nothing would happen to Xuehen. Of course, Tang Ao still had a backup plan. Though it would expose the Primal Chaos 6 light mirror, if Tang Ao's life was threatened, Tang Ao wouldn't hesitate to hide in the Primal Chaos 6 light mirror's space. Seeing Xuehen disappear so strangely, Yang Miao and Han Yen were very worried. If Tang Ao ran like this, then they wouldn't even have a place to cry. Therefore, the two didn't hesitate to grab at Tang Ao. However, though the two were fast, they were still a bit slower than Xuehen's sigil. At this time, Tang Ao's gamble was correct. Though Xuehen had a way to counter Tang Ao's soul imprint, Xuehen's current cultivation was too low. Xuehen was worried that after Tang Ao died, he wouldn't be able to handle the soul remembrance imprint's backlash. Therefore, without Tang Ao severing the soul remembrance imprint's connection, Xuehen still sent Tang Ao away. Just like when Xuehen disappeared, under Yang Miao and Han Yan's shocked gazes, the blood-colored sigil in Tang Ao's hand released a blinding red light. Then, this red light completely enveloped Tang Ao. Tang Ao transformed into a bloody mist that slowly dissipated. A moment later, Tang Ao's aura completely disappeared from this place. Under Yang Miao and Han Yan's soul remembrance detection, there was no trace of Tang Ao. After Tang Ao disappeared, a sky-shaking roar suddenly rang out. A few body refining realm 5th and 6th level martial artists on the bloody wasteland exploded into a bloody mist under this roar. Even a few body refining realm level 7 and 8 martial artists were shaken to the point of dizziness. Yang Miao and Han Yen were similarly shaken to the point of their blood boiling. Hence, everyone looked into the distance in shock. It turned out that at this moment there was a huge beast skeleton not far away. This beast skeleton was a ferocious prehistoric tiger, and it was as tall as a 30-story building. After its roar, the black fog monsters and skeletons that were still fighting immediately scattered in all directions. The ferocious prehistoric tiger raised its huge bone claws and slapped around randomly. Countless black fog monsters and skeletons were smashed by it. Some of the 9th level body refining realm warriors had also lost their lives under its claws. If Tang Ao was still here, then Tang Ao would definitely be able to tell that this ancient tiger skeleton had the cultivation of the Sea of Souls realm. It was not something that these warriors could fight against. Fortunately, this ferocious prehistoric tiger's skeleton wasn't interested in the crowd. After waving its claws a few times, it walked into the depths of the Scarlet Wasteland. Following the departure of the ferocious prehistoric tiger, the black fog monsters and skeletons that were still fighting also retreated towards the north and south like a tide. This scene shocked everyone. However, after the black fog monsters and skeletons retreated, many origin crystals appeared on the ground. Some of these origin crystals were left behind by the black fog monsters that had been slapped to death by the ferocious prehistoric tiger, and some were killed by the skeletons. Chapter 1558. After these beetles appeared, the martial artists who were still fighting for the crystals on the ground immediately let out miserable screams. This was because these beetles were incomparably hard. It was actually very difficult for martial artists to kill these black gold beetles. However, the teeth of these black gold beetles were abnormally sharp. Under the gaze of the crowd, a martial artist was actually bitten and swallowed whole by the beetles. In a mountain range in the Scarlet Wasteland, 2 streaks of red light flashed in succession. Immediately, 2 figures fell from the sky. These 2 people were naturally Tang Ao and Xuehen. However, whether it was Tang Ao or Xuehen, they were both greatly exhausted. Their faces were incomparably pale. Because he had used this blood shadow evasion, 99% of Tang Ao's essence blood had been directly extracted. If not for Tang Ao's 9 Dragons Emperor Jade Body's vigorous vitality, Tang Ao would already be dead. Xuehen's condition was also not good. Using the blood shadow evasion while being at the 3rd level of the body refining realm was not as easy as it seemed. At this moment, Xuehen's aura, which was originally at the 3rd level of the body refining realm, had directly weakened to the 1st level of the body refining realm. In front of Tang Ao, Xuehen propped himself up and gasped for breath. This place is very strange. If you have any treasures, quickly take them out and let me recover. Otherwise, both of us will die here. After Xuehen calmed his fluctuating aura, his voice was incomparably weak. Although he had just tricked Tang Ao, using this level of blood shadow evasion was still somewhat difficult for Xuehen. Right now, Tang Ao felt that his consciousness was somewhat blurred. Hearing Xuehen's words, Tang Ao rolled his eyes. This was because Tang Ao really did not have any treasures on him that could help Xuehen recover his essence blood. There are so many demonic beasts here. You can just randomly find a demonic beast to drink their blood. Tang Ao struggled to sit up. After that, Tang Ao took out 2 medicinal pills from his storage ring and swallowed them. Then, he closed his eyes and sat cross-legged to adjust his breathing. At this moment, Tang Ao was extremely weak. After losing so much essence blood in one go, Tang Ao felt excruciating pain every time he moved. Fortunately, this place was far enough away from Yang Miao and Han Yin. At least for now, Tang Ao's heavenly polar pupil was unable to see Yang Miao and Han Yin. You should also give me 2 pills. Seeing that Tang Ao was sitting quietly at the side, Xue Hen immediately said with dissatisfaction. Although Xue Hen managed to keep his life under the divine light of magnetite Tao Lord, all the items in Xue Hen's storage ring were destroyed by magnetite Tao Lord. Therefore, right now, Bloodscar, who used to be a peak level 9 astral reaching realm warrior, was even poorer than a Yuan martial realm warrior. Tang Ao did not waste any time and threw a storage ring over. There were all sorts of pills and some common items used by martial artists. Even some origin realm martial artists would not have as much wealth as that. However, Bloodscar said with dissatisfaction, "You think you can take out something like this? You've been reborn for so long and you've become like this." Xue Hen still wanted to say something, but Tang Ao extended his hand in front of him. "If you want it, then take it. If you don't want it, give it back to me." Tang Ao indeed had a lot of good things on him, but in the Flying Star continent, many of them could not be used. For example, extreme-grade spirit stones. Tang Ao still had a lot of extreme-grade spirit stones that he had obtained in the ice and snow plane. However, in this place, the extreme-grade spirit stones turned into ashes the moment he took them out. Chapter 1559. Here, even a turbid heaven realm expert like Shi Yun would still be suppressed. However, Xue Gu, who cultivated the sacred blood god scripture, was completely unaffected by the Flying Star continent's laws. After Tang Ao planted a soul imprint in Xue Ji's soul remembrance, he could look through Xue Ji's memories at will. Therefore, Tang Ao also knew Xue Ji's cultivation method. Xue Ji's cultivation method was called the Sacred Blood God Scripture. Its rank was actually a bit higher than his ancient God moving sky technique. However, it was a pity that Xue Ji's scripture was incomplete. The Sacred Blood God Scripture had a total of 3 chapters. Xue Gu only had the complete lower chapter and 6 chapters, which was half of the middle chapter. As for the other half of the middle chapter and the most powerful first chapter, Xue Gu had been searching for them in his previous life. However, he couldn't find them even after he died. After Tang Ao and Xue Gu recovered for an hour, Tang Ao slowly opened his eyes. Of course, this wasn't because Tang Ao had recovered, but because someone else had come. The person who came was a man and a woman who looked 70 to 80% similar. Tang Ao knew both of them, but at this time, Tang Ao didn't want to see them in this place. Because these two were the Yi siblings of the Qing Yun alliance. The warriors in the Hidden Dragon Cave had to hand over their essence blood every month. Back then, Yi Yun's body was weak, so Tang Ao helped Yi Yun hand over her essence blood. Although that essence blood was synthesized by Tang Ao using the Jade Bone Life Soul and ordinary blood, he still managed to get away with it. Moreover, the person in charge of the Hidden Dragon Cave, Shadowless, had given him a bottle of middle-grade essence cultivating pills. It was because of this that these two became greedy and didn't hesitate to bite the hand that fed them. Therefore, in this state, Tang Ao really didn't want to see these two. Tang Ao, Yi Qian and Yi Yun came here to escape the purple conch mosquitoes and gold-devouring bugs. They didn't expect to see Tang Ao. After sensing Tang Ao's weak aura, the two of them were overjoyed. Because when Tang Ao was refining pills on the alchemy square, the two of them clearly saw it from the audience seat. Neither of them had imagined that Tang Ao was actually a 9-star high-grade alchemist. At first, they were worried that after Tang Ao joined the Alchemy Guild, he would use the power of the Alchemy Guild against them. But what Yi Qian and Yi Yun did not expect was that when Tang Ao concocted a 9-star top-quality origin cultivation pill, a chaotic battle actually happened. Within the chaotic battle, several origin realm martial artists fought over Tang Ao. At that time, the two of them thought that Tang Ao must have been captured to be refined into pills until he died. However, the two of them didn't expect that Tang Ao would actually escape for some unknown reason. At this moment, Yi Qian and Yi Yun could clearly feel that Tang Ao's condition was very bad. His body was also extremely weak. At that time, it was as if a normal person could kill Tang Ao. In reality, the two of them were not wrong. After losing 99% of his blood essence, Tang Ao was indeed extremely weak. Even now, Tang Ao still didn't have the ability to move. So, at that time, even a normal person could kill Tang Ao, let alone Yi Qian and Yi Yun, who were at the 5th level of the body refinement realm. After hearing Yi Qian call him Tang Ao and not Tang Ao knew that this time, Yi Qian's greed won over his reasoning. Tang Ao somewhat helplessly looked at the blood scar and indifferently asked, "Can it be solved?" But after Tang Ao asked, the blood scar did not say anything and remained silent. Chapter 1560. Hearing Yi Qian's words, Tang Ao wanted to laugh inwardly. A cultivator's storage ring could be said to be a cultivator's second life. Regardless of whether it was cultivation resources or other important items, they were all stored in the storage ring. Tang Ao was currently so weak. If he were to take away Tang Ao's storage ring, it would undoubtedly be the same as killing Tang Ao. However, when these words came out of Yi Qian's mouth, they actually sounded so righteous. This caused Tang Ao to sigh inwardly. How could a person do something like this? What if I'm not willing? Tang Ao had already decided that if Xue Hen did not have any other tricks up his sleeves, he would bring Xue Hen into the chaotic hexagram mirror's space to hide. Once he recovered, Tang Ao would definitely teach these two siblings a lesson. Surname Tang, don't be so shameless. Hand over your storage ring, and we can let you die with dignity. If you don't know how to appreciate our kindness, don't blame us for being merciless. After Yi Qian finished speaking, he had already skillfully pulled out the dagger hidden behind his back and walked toward Tang Ao. This was not the first time Yi Qian had killed someone to steal their treasures. However, every time this happened, Yi Qian's heart would beat non-stop. It was unknown whether he was excited or nervous. Yi Yun, who was beside him, also had a dagger in her hand. Moreover, Yi Yun had taken 2 steps back. She was actually behind Tang Ao. Clearly, this was not the first time the two of them had done this. Thus, the two of them had a tacit understanding of each other. Tang Ao sighed inwardly and was about to bring Xue Hen into the chaotic hexagram mirror's space to hide. This was because the current Tang Ao was unable to resist Yi Qian and Yi Yun at all. Thus, Tang Ao could only hide in the chaotic hexagram mirror's space. As for Xue Hen, Tang Ao did not know if he was still hiding something. However, if he was not willing to use it, Tang Ao would not force him. The reason why Tang Ao had Xue Hen use Blood Shadow Escape instead of hiding in the chaotic hexagram mirror's space was because Tang Ao had vaguely sensed several powerful auras in that area. Although the chaotic hexagram mirror had been refined by Tang Ao, the current Tang Ao was too weak. The restriction that Tang Ao had refined was also in a very weak state. Thus, after Tang Ao and Xue Hen hid in the chaotic hexagram mirror's space, if someone refined it from the outside, he and Xue Hen would be dead. Not to mention the powerful auras hidden in the dark. Even Yang Miao and Han Yen and Yang could do it. Even Yang of Ao could too to the space. However, Tang Ao did not have to worry about this. Tang Ao had just checked and the surroundings were very safe. As for the Yi siblings, even if Tang Ao let them work together to refine it for a year, they would not be able to refine even one layer of the chaotic hexagram mirror's restriction. However, just as Tang Ao and Xue Hen were about to hide in the chaotic hexagram mirror's space, a bloody light suddenly flashed before Tang Ao's eyes. Immediately, Tang Ao stopped what he was doing. At that moment, A blood-colored barrier enveloped Tang Ao and the others. Only the Yi siblings were inside the blood-colored barrier. At that moment, the two of them were staring blankly at the place where Tang Ao had been sitting. Chapter 1561. Alchemist Tang Ao, I'll ask you one last time. If you hand over the storage ring yourself, we siblings will leave this time. Although this place is filled with danger, if you're lucky, you might be able to keep your life. As Yi Qian spoke, she walked towards Tang Ao. At the same time, Yi Yun once again arrived behind Yi Yun. However, as the two approached, Tang Ao didn't move at all. It was as if he had fallen asleep, trying to act mysterious. Seeing Tang Ao's expression, Yi Qian said. Then, he gave Yi Yun a look. Although Yi Yun looked like a little girl, her attacks were exceptionally ruthless. After receiving Yi Qian's hint, the dagger in her hand pierced into Tang Ao's body without hesitation. With a poochie sound, the dagger in Yi Yun's hand pierced through Tang Ao's heart. The dagger in her hand pierced through Tang Ao's heart from the back, then came out from Tang Ao's chest. Boiling hot blood flowed out of Tang Ao's heart, dripping down the tip of the dagger. At this time, Yi Qian didn't hesitate either. A silver light flashed in midair, then a line of blood appeared on Tang Ao's throat. Blood also flowed down Tang Ao's neck. However, just as Yi Qian was about to stab Tang Ao, Yi Yun's expression was somewhat pained. Yi Yun's mouth opened, but she couldn't say a word. Yi Qian wanted to ask, but she felt a pain in her heart. The strength in her body also seemed to disappear at this moment. At this time, the surrounding space slowly distorted. Tang Ao, who was killed by the two of them, turned into a mist of blood and disappeared. As for the dagger that Yi Yun had pierced into Tang Ao's heart, it was now in Yi Qian's chest. As for the dagger that Yi Qian had aimed at Tang Ao's throat, it naturally appeared in Yi Yun's throat as well. Although their consciousness was gradually fading, at the last moment of their lives, there was still a trace of regret in their eyes. They were born in the Hidden Dragon Crypt, struggling to survive at the lowest level of the Hidden Dragon Crypt. The first time they killed someone, they killed the middle-aged martial artist who had saved them and obtained his cultivation resources and identity jade token. Using his identity jade token, the siblings joined the Qin Yun League and obtained the protection of the Qin Yun League. Since the two of them were still young, they were taken care of by the deputy leader of the Qin Yun Alliance, Lin Qing. However, during one of their explorations in Evergreen Valley, the siblings and Vice Alliance Master Lin Qing were besieged by the Fog Moon Alliance. Vice Alliance Master Lin Qing was heavily injured and Yi Yun was captured by the Fog Moon Alliance. At this time, Yi Qian suddenly rushed out, exposing Lin Qing's position. In the end, under Lin Qing's desperate struggle, the three of them escaped. However, because they were worried that Lin Qing would blame them, Yi Qian and Yi Yun actually killed the heavily injured Lin Qing. Later on, the two of them did such things many times. The two of them could not remember how many times Tang Ao had done it. However, at this moment, the two of them were regretting not because they should not have made a move against Tang Ao, but because they should have killed Tang Ao when he was still in the Qin Yun League. If that was the case, Tang Ao would not have grown to his current state, causing the two of them to lose their lives. In reality, they had indeed blamed the wrong person. Because it was not Tang Ao who used a method to cause the two of them to perish together, but because the two of them were hit by the Blood Scars Blood Mist fantasy world. After the two of them fell, two crystal-clear drops of blood chi essence slowly floated up from between their eyebrows. After these two drops of blood chi essence left their bodies, the two of them immediately turned into a cloud of blood mist and slowly dissipated. Chapter 1562. After absorbing and refining the blood essence of Yi Qian and the other person, Xue Hen's cultivation immediately reached the 5th level of the body refining realm. Tang Ao sighed inwardly. It must be known that when Tang Ao first came here to cultivate to the 5th level of the body refining realm, it was extremely difficult. However, Xue Hen only needed a moment's effort to reach the 5th level of the body refining realm. Although Xue Hen's methods were somewhat despicable, if he killed people like Yi Qian, Tang Ao really didn't think much of it. Although in his previous life, Tang Ao constantly heard about Xue Hen massacring cities, Tang Ao had never seen it with his own eyes. On the contrary, many times Tang Ao saw Xue Hen beheading those heinous martial artists. Thinking of this, Tang Ao's heart stirred, and he once again checked Xue Hen's memories. After roughly scanning through Xue Hen's memories, Tang Ao smiled knowingly. This guy was indeed good and evil. Although he didn't kill all bad people, the people he killed could be said to be people who deserved to be killed. Of course, there were also some cases of wrongful killings. However, this guy's personality was somewhat strange, and he didn't have any burden in his heart regarding these matters. It was as if he had killed many evil people, and his merits and demerits were offset. While Tang Ao was checking Xue Hen's memories, Xue Hen's cultivation was also constantly recovering. As Xue Hen's cultivation grew, Tang Ao's consciousness was also gradually expelled from his memories. Tang Ao chuckled and didn't pay any more attention to Xue Hen. With Xue Hen's great help, Tang Ao felt that he would be able to leave the hidden dragon cave very soon. However, at this moment, Tang Ao still didn't know how to leave the hidden dragon cave. Although Shi Yun knew the special passage to enter and exit the hidden dragon cave, Tang Ao felt that if he didn't have anything to do, he shouldn't be too involved with Shi Yun. Moreover, at this moment, Tang Ao still had a Fallen Star Command token on him. Tang Ao was not sure whether Shi Tingyun had any means to discover this Fallen Star Command token on him or not. Apart from Shi Tingyun's path, Tang Ao felt that he could also leave through the passage that Shun Luoli and the others had used to enter the hidden dragon cave. It was just that Tang Ao still didn't know where Shun Luoli and the others came from. However, Tang Ao wasn't in a hurry. After all, Shun Luoli was also in this scarlet space. It was just that Tang Ao was too weak now. After Tang Ao recovered a little, Tang Ao decided to look for Shun Luoli. After meditating for a few more hours, Tang Ao finally recovered a little. Although he wasn't at his peak, he had recovered a little and had a certain amount of combat power. Seeing Tang Ao stand up, Blood Scar also opened his eyes. "Where are we going now?" Blood Scar said in a weak voice. Although Blood Scar's condition had almost recovered, and he still had a cultivation at the peak of the 5th level of the body refining realm. However, Blood Scar was still very unhappy about being controlled by Tang Ao. In his previous life, he and Tang Ao had fought for 1,000 years. No one could take advantage of the other. However, after being reborn in this life, he hadn't reacted and was completely controlled by Tang Ao. If it was an ordinary soul slave, Blood Scar would even have the ability to dissolve the soul imprint. However, Tang Ao's soul imprint was far beyond Blood Scar's imagination. Blood Scar really didn't understand. In his previous life, Tang Ao was a complete layman in the Array Dao and Talisman seals. How did he become so powerful in this life? If Blood Scar knew that Tang Ao's Array Dao Talisman seal in this life had obtained the inheritance of the 3 unfettered saints, Yun Xiaoyao, then Blood Scar wouldn't think like this. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.